gates at Tom Bradley Terminal, one of the finest terminals now in North America.
Collectively, on capital improvement at LAX, we are spending an average of $4.5 million per day.
Officials say Delta has been the fastest growing carrier since 2009.
And the work done on this terminal alone helped us to have 1,000 additional jobs, good-paying construction jobs, in addition to the 2,800 jobs that Delta already has here.
Delta Airlines is also looking to expand the number of locations they fly to. They currently serve 53 destinations and already have plans to add more destinations to the list this summer. Yana?
Rasha, thanks. According to airport officials, in the first quarter of this year, LAX accommodated 1.5 million more passengers when compared to previous years. And while LAX is seeing a boost in passengers, Los Angeles fire stations are experiencing a boost of their own as critical services are restored at one firehouse in Los Feliz. Los Angeles Fire Station 35 is back to doing what it does best, serving the community and saving lives. That's because the station is now back to operating with full capacity.
Well, now we have a fully staffed engine company with 4 people, and then we have a fully staffed truck company, and then 2 fully staffed rescues, 1 paramedic rescue and 1 BLS rescue, which allows us to be fully staffed in the Los Feliz district.
LAFD and city officials came out recently to rededicate the station as a full-service task force.
I just think it's really important that we have good support from the fire department, and they do a wonderful job.
In 2011, during the height of the recession, the station had to cut 1 fire engine and 4 firefighters from service. But now that services have been restored, officials say firefighters can get back to doing their jobs.
In every neighborhood they are, and they are extremely efficient, but they need support because not just the regular day-to-day activities. We all know what Dr. Lucy Jones says, the big one will come, and these are our absolute first responders.
LAFD officials said Fire Station 35 was the first to get its resources returned because it's close to popular destinations such as Griffith Park, nightclubs, and several major hospitals. LAFD Chief Ralph Terrazas said even more support is on its way in the form of a nurse practitioner unit to help respond to 911 calls.
This new unit will go out there and address the needs of that patient. It's just below a doctor level. They can do stitches, they can write prescriptions, they can take them to a substance abuse center, they can take them to a mental health clinic, all the things that we can't do right now.
Terrazas, who became chief of the department last year, said 54 new firefighters were also recently hired, and he said he will be requesting 5 new classes for the next fiscal year. With Fire Station 35 fully restored, LAFD now has 31 complete task forces. While some of the finest high school filmmakers in the county compete for exposure on the big screen, Gil Reyes reports from the Los Angeles Student Film Festival, a festival created by City Councilman Paul Krikorian.
Many of these filmmakers exhibit depth and creativity well beyond their high school years. Senior Riley Barris directed not your typical documentary, but a sockumentary to help the homeless.
We collect socks, undergarments, and hygiene products for the homeless, and we distribute them back to the homeless population in the streets. So it's about raising awareness and promoting donations for the homeless.
Her film, one of 37, selected to screen at the Los Angeles Student Film Festival at El Portal Theater in North Hollywood. LA City Councilman Paul Krikorian created the program.
An opportunity to explore a different side of themselves that maybe they didn't even know was there. Some of these kids have never picked up a camera before they entered this festival. But at the same time, there are also some very serious filmmakers who are no doubt going to go on to a career in this industry, so we're helping to develop the next generation of filmmakers.
Animators, too. Students spent months painstakingly crafting their animated films using Adobe Photoshop and iMovie.
It was all hand-drawn, so it was just like picking pictures and putting it all together into one single stop motion.
It was so much work, but once seeing it like finished and crisp and clear and beautiful, I'm like, yes, this is our baby. And I'm super excited to be able to present it here.
Students also got to wear many different hats, juggling duties as actors, directors, and producers.
We all helped produce it, we all helped edit it, and it was like one of the first things we've ever created together and one of my first collaborations.
And hopefully not the last for these talented young filmmakers. In North Hollywood, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Only 37 student films were selected out of some 200 submissions throughout LA County. Well, it's one of the most critically acclaimed shows on television, and most of it was shot right here in LA. For all of its contributions to the city, City Council recognized the crew and creator of Mad Men. That's the focus of This Week in Tweets. The AMC hit Mad Men was honored by Councilmember Paul Krikorian at City Hall, declaring June 17th Mad Men Day in Los Angeles. On hand for the honor were show creator Matthew Weiner and other cast and crew members.
Nostalgia. It's delicate, but potent. It's a twinge.
Krikorian, who was also chair of the city's Film and TV Production Jobs Committee, tweeted, Wednesday, June 17th is Mad Men Day in Los Angeles. This historic show created hundreds of TV jobs over the last 8 years. Jejune Wilson at Pinky Avalon tweeted, congrats to Mad Men team being honored by LA City Council, declaring June 17th officially Mad Men AMC Day in LA. Our own Rasha Goel, who was at City Hall, tweeted a pic of Krikorian speaking at the podium of council chambers. She tweeted, Mad Men creator, cast, crew recognized at LA City Council for keeping production in LA. Shot almost entirely in Los Angeles, Mad Men generated about $200 million to LA's economy during its 7-year run on AMC. Krikorian said the production created hundreds of steady jobs for actors, writers, and below-the-line production workers. Mad Men wrapped its 7th and final season this spring. And that's a look at This Week in Tweets. While U.S. veterans are recognized, a historic community in Elysian Park gets its name carved in stone, and the bidding begins as city leaders ask internet companies to take part in their CityLink LA initiative. All these stories and more in City Beat. More than 200 veterans and guests recently came out for the 3rd annual Council District 12 Interfaith Breakfast at New Horizons in North Hills. This biannual event, entitled A Time for Gratitude, focused on celebrating the selfless service and sacrifice of all veterans, while at the same time exploring issues such as employment, housing, benefits, and mental health. A panel of federal, state, and local experts shared their knowledge and expertise with those in attendance. Councilmember Gil Cedillo and the Department of Recreation and Parks unveiled a monument to recognize the historic Solano community within Elysian Park. The Solano community is the last remaining residential community within Elysian Park after several other neighborhoods were removed in the mid-1950s to make room for Dodger Stadium. The location of the monument is on a 0.10-acre portion of Elysian Park, which was donated to the city of Los Angeles in 2008. The City Council is now accepting bids from companies interested in offering free or low-cost internet access across the city. As part of the CityLink LA program, the city is looking for internet providers that can offer reduced rate and free wireless internet service for low-income communities. The providers would also set up a network with 1 gigabyte or higher speeds for homes and businesses. In return, the internet providers would get access to city-owned assets and get other incentives, such as bulk lease rates on the city's fiber networks, as well as a streamlined permitting process. City officials said the goal is to offer internet access to everyone in the city, including those who cannot currently afford to get online.
The City of Los Angeles has made a serious commitment to this initiative and is deeply invested in making wide broadband access a reality.
Councilman Bon Blumenfield, who is spearheading the citywide internet effort, said the program would boost the local economy as well as close the digital divide, a phrase that refers to a gap between those who can afford internet and those who cannot. Companies have until November 12th to submit their proposals. The city's Department of Recreation and Parks, Council Districts 1 and 14 recently hosted a luncheon and preview of the upcoming Lotus Festival taking place in July.
There will be lots of live performances as well, really great dances and singing, and it'll be a great cultural experience for everyone.
The Lotus Festival is held in July to coincide with the blooming of the flowers that are cultivated on the lake beds by city park crews. LA's first responders compete on the court to encourage summer safety. Gil Reyes has more from USC.
It's chief versus chief. Sporting different types of uniforms, the LA City Fire Department and the LA Police Department go head-to-head in a game of hoops.
To bring the community out and have a good time.
Fans packed USC's Galen Center for the 6th annual Safe Summer Tip-Off basketball game.
The main point is to tell the kids to have a safe summer, stay out of trouble, take up sports, and look to your police and fire departments if you ever need help for anything.
They'll be around when over 30 parks and rec centers stay open after hours for summer night lights. The program keeps kids off the streets and out of trouble with supervised activities like sports.
We see a spike in violent crime during the summer. The fire department sees a spike in medical calls. So we got to emphasize, have a great summer, but have a safe summer.
The LAFD on fire early, but the LAPD shoots and scores to take the lead. Final score 53-77. LAPD wins.
The police department always wins.
You'll win too if you play it safe. At USC's Galen Center, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Though LAFD appeared to be the crowd favorite at times, LAPD has won the annual game 6 years in a row. A mariachi music festival celebrates Latin music, a Peruvian guitarist soothes the soul, and what does Beethoven and the Beatles have in common? Find out in this week's Things to Do. Proudly reaching an important milestone, Mariachi USA celebrates its 26 years on Saturday, June 27th. It's the premier mariachi music festival and the only annual Latino-themed event at the Hollywood Bowl for 26 consecutive years. The festival will showcase top mariachi bands from the U.S. and Mexico. The event features traditional folkloric dances and the legendary fireworks display that together have made the event a cultural icon in L.A. The festival was created to give mariachi music a forum for artistic expression and a way to celebrate the rich musical traditions that so many have come to enjoy. Held at the Hollywood Bowl since its inception, the festival continues thrilling audiences of all generations. Rich musical traditions come to life at the Hollywood Bowl, located at 2301 Highland Avenue. For more details, visit mariachiusa.com. If you prefer the cool sounds of an acoustic guitar, check out the Latin music of the Ciro Hurtado Band, performing at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art on June 27th. Peruvian guitarist and composer Ciro Hurtado has been actively performing since the early 70s. He is a musical director and a solo artist who has produced and recorded 7 albums, including In My Mind and Tales from Home. Each of his compositions is paired with a story to illustrate the cultural and social context which brings his music to life. He was awarded the prestigious Durfee Master Musician Fellowship in 2001 and 2004. LACMA is located at 5905 Wilshire Boulevard. More details can be found at lacma.org. The joyous sounds of Beethoven's 7th Symphony perfectly pairs with Beatles hits like Penny Lane, Sgt. Pepper, Hey Jude, and more. The great music comes alive on Sunday, June 28th at the Walt Disney Concert Hall with Maestro Veneer and the California Philharmonic. Your spirits will swoop, soar, and sparkle as the music fills the air. Don't miss this fabulous opportunity to make your musical experience even more fulfilling. The Walt Disney Concert Hall is located at 111 South Grand Avenue. For more, go to calphil.com. And that's a look at some things to do. And that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kay, and from all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
If you're in an accident, just stay. Call 911. Help if you can. You might save someone's life. Obey the rules of the road.
Don't worry, Patty. This isn't going to hurt me one bit. Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Shapiro in beautiful Encino, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel. Open wide.
Sergeants call the members, have them Good morning. Good morning. Today is Tuesday. Shh. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd. Welcome to your Los Angeles City Council. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Public is welcome. Madam Clerk, we do have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Blumenfeld, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Weezer, Carrasco, Coin, Labange, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Weston, 12 members present, a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Buscaino moves. Okay, now the meeting is being disrupted. Sergeants, let's retain some order so that we can begin with our meeting. Sergeants, we should clear. Sergeants, please clear the chambers. The disturbers of the chambers. Sergeants, I think we should escort our guests out at this time. Please remove them from the council chambers. Please remove them from the council chambers.
We're just going to hold.
We are having a disturbance at this time. If we could, sergeants, if we could remove the individuals from the chambers so that we can begin today's council meeting. Hey, sergeants, let's make sure we take the, sergeants, everybody that's causing a disruption. We will begin in a minute. Once the chambers. And now, sergeants, everyone that's part of the disturbance should be removed from council, including that gentleman as well. You're disrupting the meeting. Sergeants, please escort him out with the others. Escort him out with the others. He's disrupting the meeting, sir. You need to leave. You're disrupting the meeting. Please, sergeants, remove all of the members that have been engaged in the disruption. It is Michael Hunt that is making all of this noise at this time. Please remove Mr. Hunt from the chambers. And I just want to say we respect your ability to come into this council and to speak your mind. It's just we cannot have disruptions. So with that said, Madam Clerk, where are we on today's agenda?
Committed to resolutions for approval.
O'Farrell moves, Price seconds.
Mr. President, today is Tuesday, now be the time for the flag salute.
Why don't we rise for our flag salute? We'll be led today by our own Mr. Tom LaBonge.
We thank all those who've served our country and our armed forces and those serving around the world. Put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, why don't we quickly run through the agenda?
Mr. President, there's a request to continue item 1A to July 28th.
Without objection, that'll be the order.
Items 2 through 3 are items noticed for public hearing. For item 2, which is the establishment of the Pacific Palisades Property and Business Improvement District, Council should close the public hearing, and the public announcement of the tabulation of ballots will be on tomorrow, June 24th.
Okay, so without objection, that'll be the order.
And there are cards on item number 3.
Okay, let's hold item 3. Let's move on to the next set of items.
Items 4 through 22 are items for which public hearings have been held. There's a request to call items 5, 6, and 11 special.
Okay, that'll be the order. Members, any other specials? Then let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Mr. President,
Mr. O'Farrell.
17 and 19 forthwith, please.
Without objection, that'll be the order.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk. Mr. LaBonge, item 4
is very special because we got a very special addition to our city family, item 4.
So on that item, we have to vote for reconsideration, I'm informed. No, can't we just... So let's open the roll on reconsideration on item 4, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, Mr. LaBonge, we'll be holding that item. Thank you. Mr. Krikorian?
I'd like to ask that item 22 be sent urgently forthwith, please.
Without objection. In fact, we have a new suggestion that on those urgent forthwiths that we vote on it. So we are voting on the urgent forthwith. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, that brings us where?
Items 23 through 32 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body. Do we have cards on these items?
Yes, cards on items 25, 27, 31, and 32.
Okay, what remains?
Items 23, 24, 26, 28, 29, and 30.
Let's vote on the remaining. Mr. Krikorian.
I'd like to call item 29 special, please, Mr.
29 per Mr. Krikorian. We will vote on the remaining items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay. That brings us where?
Mr. President, that brings council to presentations or items called special.
Mr. Wizar.
President, items 25 and 26, urgent forthwith, please.
Did you say urgent?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's vote on that. Let's.
Excuse me, Mr. President. Item 25 was called special for cards, but item 26 you can vote on for
So
urgent
we'll
forthwith.
hold 25 and we'll vote on 26, urgent forthwith. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
And who came up with urgent forthwith? I want to find out who that is. Was it you, Mr. City Attorney? I see you slinking in your chair. So that brings us where, Madam Clerk? We're back to presentations?
Yes, Mr. President.
Well, we want to start off. We'll go to Mr. Koretz. It's my understanding. Mr. Koretz, you have a quick intro.
Well, I know today is all about Mr. LaBonge, as it should be, but the city also has another significant departure this week, so I didn't want it to pass it by. The first time I met Alexa Delwich was back in 2011, when she and Paula Daniels, as part of the newly minted Los Angeles Food Policy Council, came to my office to discuss a motion requiring all city departments to develop and adopt local food procurement goals. I thought it was a great idea, and I introduced a motion to that effect. A year later, they came back with this amazing document called the Good Food Purchasing Guidelines, which created a LEED-type rating system for food, promoting food that is healthy, affordable, sustainably, and fairly produced. This program has also been adopted by LAUSD and a number of institutions, and Alexa was instrumental in the creation of this great program. She has played an important role in developing working groups and a network that has become the LA Food Policy Council. In 2014, she took over as managing director of the council, which now has 6 staff, 40 board members, and hundreds of active programs and organizations. And I'm pleased to say that the Good Food Purchasing Program has been so successful that Alexa is moving on to help expand this nationally. So before she sneaks out of here on Thursday, I wanted to make sure that we thanked Alexa for all of her great contributions here in Los Angeles, and I look forward to hearing about all the great things that you do on food policy in the years to come. Can I say a word? Okay, we'll just take a picture. Good luck with everything. Thank you for everything.
Now, I have Mr. Buscaino on the queue. Now, I've been told now to go to Mr. O'Farrell.
¿No? ¿No? Pero.
Mr. O'Farrell, I really don't have a clue why you might be at the center aisle. I mean, it's my understanding we finished our presentation for today, unless there is some surprise or something that I'm unaware of. I don't know why you would be. where you are, but since you are, I'm going to give the floor to you. Is something hot and exciting going on?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, as those in the chamber may have guessed, we are here to celebrate an icon of Los Angeles, and that is Mr. Los Angeles himself, Councilmember Tom LaBonge. I know, seriously. We just pass it around. We just pass it around. This is for you.
Mr. O'Farrell, I see we've been joined by our mayor, Mayor Garcetti, and our city attorney, Mike Feuer. And I'll say to them, both of them who've sat around this horseshoe, only one man could create that type of climate and emotion, and he is Tom LaBonge.
All right. Never was a standing ovation ever more deserved than that one. A dedicated public servant who has served the city of Los Angeles for 39.6 years, but who's counting? Our very own colleague and friend and mentor, Councilmember Tom LaBonge. Let me indulge you with a little history of Mr. Tom LaBonge. Thomas Joseph LaBonge was born October 6th, 1953 at Queen of Angels Hospital, the seventh of 8 boys born to Mary Louise and Robert LaBonge of Silver Lake. And I repeat, 8 boys, no girls. Tom's deep-felt love for the City of Angels was imparted to him by his parents, whose families have roots reaching several generations in this city dating back to the 1880s. Joining us today, of course, is Bridget LaBonge, his incredible wife. And his children that we've all watched grow up, Charles and Mary Catherine. Tom graduated from Ivanhoe Elementary School in 1965, Thomas Starr King Middle School in 1968, and John Marshall High School in 1971, all located in Silver Lake and Los Feliz. His civic spirit was ignited as a teenager when he served on Mayor Tom Bradley's Youth Council, and Olivia Mitchell is here to join us too. I remember how good I felt when I could help someone out, Tom said. I just knew from the very beginning that this was going to be my life's work. Serving the people of Los Angeles in any way I could, says Tom, and he was certainly right. Upon earning his undergraduate degree from Cal State Los Angeles, he joined the staff of Councilwoman Peggy Stevenson for the 13th District in 1976, which was his very first job. In 1978, he joined the office of Council President John Ferraro of the 4th District, whose chambers bears his name. As a council aide for 15 years, as a field deputy, Tom learned the meaning and value of constituent services. Tom has served in many different capacities. As chief of field operations for Mayor Richard Reardon, Tom oversaw a staff of deputies assigned to neighborhoods throughout every region of the 465 square mile city and acted as the mayor's special representative at community events. In 2001, upon the untimely death of Mr. John Ferraro, Tom won handily the council seat, District 4, after a special election to represent the good people of the 4th District. He was subsequently reelected to 4-year terms in 2003, 2007, and 2011. His priorities as an elected leader included neighborhood preservation and enhancement, improved transportation systems, mobility, public safety, expansion and improvement of parks and open space, and beautification. Not to mention saving the Hollywood sign. Tom has also worked tirelessly in support of the Sister Cities of Los Angeles program, maintaining connections with cities all over the world. As you mentioned, Mr. President, we have a few special guests joining us as we bid farewell to the Honorable Tom LaBonge. First, Mayor Eric Garcetti, who served for 12 years on the Los Angeles City Council with Councilman LaBonge and worked closely and seamlessly for the neighboring communities of the 4th and 13th Districts. Let's give a warm welcome to Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Thank you so much. Usually the crying starts at the end, but Tom walked in here with his eyes red. And I think we all immediately felt that same moment of sadness that he feels, but there are also tears of joy. Tears of joy of so many moments that we couldn't possibly contain, the stories, the smiles, the triumphs, the tragedies for which we've seen this man literally embody a city. I'll never forget the Los Angeles Times wrote an article, if I can call out, I'm sure he doesn't like his name being mentioned, but Dave Z, who we all know, wrote an article during the fires that were in Griffith Park. And it sketched this picture of a man who was running around the midst of a fire, literally in the park. As we all know, I don't know exactly what vehicles Tom gets, but sometimes we find them in the Los Angeles River. Sometimes we find them driving through fire. Sometimes we find them, well, on our front door, knocking at any hour of the day or night. But Tom was running around doing at the end, for somebody who maybe hasn't written many articles like that, that journalist said he was doing exactly what a council member should do. Tom has been present for all of us. He's been present in our lives. He's been present in our personal lives, always asking how we are doing. He's been present in the lives of people who don't know him but who've seen him in the city and who feel that they know Los Angeles when they hear him speak. Anybody who needs to see the life of Tom LaBonge and the community around him just needs to go between here and City Hall East right now. It's a living monument right now to all things LaBonge. There's Tom guiding kids through his beloved Mount Hollywood, where he's hiked nearly every morning. Actually, the first time we ever met was, well, the first time we talked was when we were meeting when I was a candidate. And he said, meet me up there. He brought a football. We tossed it. We talked. And he's done that for 35 years. You see another picture of him eating an ice cream cone at the original Farmer's Market. My personal favorite, a picture of Tom with a Beatles haircut, speaking intently on what looks like a rotary phone or something. I mean, this guy's been around for a long time. All of us around the Horseshoe and certainly the 4th Council District know that Mr. LA is a man who likes to get his hands dirty. His trunk is, one part pothole filler, another part calendar, and the rest of it's filled with loaves of bread that he gives out to folks to mark those moments. And it was Tom who taught me so many things. He taught me how to always go like this at the end of a press conference. He taught me how to take a guy and just go like this the whole time and shove him here. Like, everybody's had the Tom where he's like, and this guy's great, and here. By the end, you got to go to the doctor to get work on your shoulder. He's taught me He's taught me the way to document history, to feel history, and to mark history. But he hasn't just marked history, he's made history, and he is our history. We often see Tom crouched by a curb, taking stuff out of a storm drain, or pulling his car over across lanes of traffic to get a piece of trash. We see that his love of this city is not something that he does in front of cameras. He does it when nobody is around. And I want to thank his family, because I know all of us, when we sign up, sacrifice so much. The time we don't get to see each other, the times that we're not around. But I know for Tom, he is the most proud of everything he's done of raising these two children who are amazing and who we have watched grow up. So thank you, Tom, for what you have done as a family man. This is a man who grew up playing baseball at Griffith Park, football at John Marshall High School. He's like the Rain Man of mascots. You ask him any high school in the Southland, he'll tell you what the mascot is. Go ahead. Bob, you got a high school? Come on.
He went back east. Roosevelt, right there.
The Roosevelt,
Pirates, San Pedro.
There you go. All right.
The Spartans, right there.
There you go.
At Silmar, no way, at Silmar, your opponent, because he was a Tiger at San Fernando.
There you go. All right.
And a Mustang at Salesian, and a Chancellor at Cleveland.
I told you, see?
And a Tiger right there.
Now, the thing that's tough is Tom has always had difficulty speaking in public. And we've always had to bring him out of his shell at moments like this. But he has done so much with his voice. His voice started actually when he was a singer. His angelic singing voice during his garage band phase as a frontman for Joe Bush and the Hubcaps. He has seen our city of Angels survive earthquake, polluted skies, fires. He has been there in those emergency moments, and he's the guy. You know, we're doing a lot of work collectively on earthquakes. He's the one for 12 years who kept saying, earthquakes, 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 it's coming. We got to get ready. He makes us love Griffith Park, not just as a park, but what he calls the world's greatest urban park. In Hollywood, he says, he goes up to tourists that are there. Where are you from? Whether they're from Germany or whether they're from Kansas, he says, you don't realize how beautiful this place is. And he helped restore it. All the folks at Musso and Frank's know him well. And he makes sure that anybody, whether it's the mayor of Guangzhou or a dear friend of his, goes and meets him there. And oftentimes I've bumped into him there. But nobody can doubt his authenticity. Look, we've all been through it. The first time you meet Tom LeBon, you're like, there's no way this guy's for real. I remember that. You're kind of like, there's no way that what he's saying is for real. And you peel the layers of the onion, you realize it is 100% who he is, what he is, and really who we are and what we're about here. One last thing I want to say is, when we got into office shortly thereafter, that Los Angeles was, and we forget this, was about to be ripped apart into many pieces. The frustrations that people felt about City Hall and other things that were going on led to secession movements in the San Fernando Valley and in Hollywood. And Tom and I led the campaign in Hollywood. And I want to thank Mayor Hahn for the leadership at that time and everybody who came together. But Tom, representing both the Valley and Hollywood, went around. You could feel it in his heart. He wouldn't understand why this family would break up, why we would get divorced, when Los Angeles, from every tip and every corner of this town, is such a special and beautiful place. And he embodied that, and I think as much as anybody, he kept this town together. So we would not be literally who we are today without you, Tom. And just on a personal note, I said it so many times, but I always felt it as council member. We had a district that bordered each other, but he taught me that there really was no border, partially because he was showing up in my district all the time at events. But I realized that it came from a place of love, it came from a place of intense knowledge, and we governed as if there was no border, and that's the way he has always been here. He has been, I've always joked, I wish that we had a British system so I could just be the head of government and I could make sure that he was the head of state. He is that king, that queen of Los Angeles, that man who has been able to go around, cut those ribbons, put those squares out, make sure that people know why this is a city. And the one most lasting thing, and I say it every single time because it comes from Tom LeBon's mouth, when he talks to somebody who's here or out there, but it really is a description of himself when he looks in the mirror. This is truly an angel in the city of angels. We love you, Tom LeBon.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti. And another friend and ally to Tom LaBonge is our own city attorney, Mr. Mike Fior.
Thank you, Mitch. Mr. President, council members, I think it's fair to say that nobody embodies the spirit of Los Angeles like Tom LaBonge. And it's fitting today that we have come together to celebrate Tom, because how many times can each of us remember Tom convening all of us to celebrate the accomplishments of somebody else? Today is an appropriate day because, as Tom, this moment is all about you, as it should be. I have known Tom for 20 years, since I took office as a city council member back in 1995. And I just want to talk about a couple things here. First, when I was on the city council, I was approached by a family who raised my consciousness about how really frustrating it was, to put it gently, for disabled kids to confront the conditions in our parks, because they couldn't navigate them at all. They used to call the sand in our playgrounds the sand pit if they had a wheelchair, for example. I held a hearing in which I asked a child what he did to play, and he said, I roll my wheelchair out to my porch and I watch my friends. Tom LaBonge was instrumental in helping us find a place in Griffith Park, I don't know how you remember that, that became Shane's Inspiration, named for the deceased son of a very courageous family. Tom made tremendous effort to be sure there was a location where children of all abilities could play, and then he made that a cause among many causes of his. We know, for example, about the extension of that vision in Pan Pacific Park. So Tom is a person whose accomplishments are often talked about with regard to staving off secession or Griffith Park. But there is a special place in Tom's heart for kids in particular, and especially for kids who have special needs. And I wanted to highlight that today because it's not well known about Tom. The other thing about Tom that shouldn't be well known, but I'm going to say it out loud here, is I remember Tom, Eric talked about the measures, the things that he taught, that you taught him. But I remember it was a press conference, an event in Hollywood, not too many years ago. I think it was to celebrate the preservation of the Hollywood sign. I'm not sure I remember, when Tom at this conference took off his shirt and put on a t-shirt. Now, when Tom took off the shirt he was wearing, he didn't have an undershirt on. So this was a major lesson in how public officials can really display who they are to the entire community. Tom LaBonge has been a role model for all of us in public service because of one special quality. He knows how to make every person with whom he comes in contact feel extraordinary. He has that capacity to, in the most authentic way possible, make sure that person knows they matter. And it is that common touch, Tom, that sense that you are every person in this city, that I think is most memorable to me. It has been a privilege to serve with you in so many capacities, but I think we all know this. Tom LaBonge is far from done serving this city of Los Angeles, and we should be so lucky. Tom, congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. We have joining us today another friend and ally from the Los Angeles Fire Department, but I also want to acknowledge Chief Ralph Terrazas, who I know is here. And that is friend and ally Deputy Chief Daryl Arbuthnot for remarks about Tom LaBonge. Deputy Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, it's tough. It's tough seeing this this whole era of the LaBonge come to a close. Kind of going back, you've probably intermittently heard the story. I was about 14 years old, and my whole mission was to buy a 10-speed. So at the time, Mayor Bradley had a student worker program, and I entered into it. It's 1974, and it turns out that Tom LaBonge was my supervisor. So he always pegs me as his first city employee. Is that correct?
That's right.
Along that story, so we worked for the Department of Sanitation, my brother and I and a few others, and we worked in the East Side Yard. We'd go out all day and pick up trash, cut weeds, and that sort of stuff. And Tom had this signature hand signal when he wanted us to do something. So he'd ride in a vehicle in front of us while we were in the back of a dump truck behind him, and he'd reach out his hand and point, which meant for us to stop and get off, pick up the couch or chair or whatever it was. I was always amazed when I gained permanent employment with the city, working around Councilman LaBonge, his ability to recall names, his uncanny ability to recall very historical things about the city. And as you spend time with him, you ride in a car with him, he just has always got this information to share with you. And I've always been impressed by that, so I wanted to share that with you. And also, Tom doesn't know this. This is the first time he's probably heard this. The fire department, we do a lot of training, and I guess 7 or 8 years ago, we had a big brush fire in Griffith Park, and LaBonge does have a city vehicle, but it has fire department, police department radios in it. And he responded up there, obviously, like we'd expect. But we would actually train on how to manage the councilman while fighting a fire. So to your credit, Tom, we appreciate your distraction for us. I also want to acknowledge Bridget, Charles, and Mary Kay, because we have actually all stolen Tom at various times and taken him from his family life. So really appreciate that. And just as a side note, I'd like to also acknowledge Councilman Bernie Parks, who's also leaving after 50 years of service with the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Arbuthnot. Tom, I don't know what to say. I think the mayor said it best when he said, "Is this guy for real?" And when I first encountered Tom almost 20 years ago, I was a captain, and I believe you were working for Mayor Reardon at the time. And I'll tell you that Tom has consistently been a cheerleader for the fire department in good times and bad. He still comes over occasionally and talks to us and texts me and calls me with some suggestions. His heart is in the right place. He is a true champion of this city and especially the Los Angeles Fire Department. Tom, I can't thank you enough. Congratulations on your retirement.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, gentlemen. And at this time, I'd also like to acknowledge a representative of the Los Angeles Police Department. Representing LA's finest is LA's finest, and that's Deputy Chief B. Grimala. From the community of Larchmont Village in the 4th District, we have Joan Pickett from Pickett Fences. Larchmont Village bid for remarks.
Hi, my name's Joan Pickett. I'm a business owner and a resident in CD4. Through my volunteer efforts in the community, I've had the great pleasure to work closely with Tom for many years, not 39.6, but many. I'm here today to thank Tom for improving our neighborhoods and improving our quality of life. Tom, you worked with us on medians, stop signs, crosswalks, handicap ramps, street signs, street lights, big belly trash cans, trees, parks, zoning, and HPOZs. You always work hard to fix the small things that made our daily lives better. Your support of our neighborhoods was unwavering. My favorite thing about you, Tom, is your enthusiasm and love for LA. You're the best civic booster in the entire city. You always celebrate all that is great about Los Angeles. So today, I want to celebrate you. I'm sad to see you leave public office, but you'll still be the city's #1 booster, and you and Bridget will still be our dear friends. I look forward to your next chapter. On behalf of Larchmont Village, the Larchmont Boulevard Association, and all our friends and neighbors, thank you for your service, thank you for loving LA, and thank you for your friendship.
And now, President of the Sister Cities of Los Angeles, Tom Gilmore.
Thank you. Hi, I'm here not just as Sister Cities president, but as a good friend of Tom LaBonge. You're my guy. Clearly, I don't have to tell anyone, this man has had a love affair with the city of Los Angeles all his life. It is the biggest love affair of his life outside, of course, of Bridget, Charles, and Mary Catherine, but it's a strong one nonetheless. I don't have a lot of time, so it's important that we get this out quickly. He sings to this city once in a while. I don't know if you've noticed that, Councilman Buscaino, but he does sing to this city, but he always does it in the voice of Elvis. So I'm going to embarrass myself right now and ask Tom to join me with Love Me Tender, Love Me True, let me go. I have worked here for 40 years, and I don't want to go.
Love me tender, love me long, nothing like Los Angeles. For the people who we serve
He's making up.
Are really the best.
See, this is... I couldn't let him leave this chamber without at least getting the song in. You'll be hearing Tom sing many, many times again here in the city of Los Angeles and around the world with us at Sister Cities. He is the heart and soul of Los Angeles. I am grateful to know you as a resident of the city of Los Angeles, and as Tom Gilmore, I thank you, Tom LaBonge.
Representing the Port, is Don here? Don Lou? Okay, he is here. Representing the Port of Los Angeles, we have another long-term friend and advocate for Tom LaBonge, Don Lou.
Thank you, Councilman. First, I want to thank Councilman Buscaino for giving me a visa to leave San Pedro for the day, come back to City Hall, a place I love. It's a great honor for me to be here on behalf of our Executive Director, Gene Soroka, and the 894 employees at the Port of Los Angeles to honor the chair of the Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee and a good friend of the Port of Los Angeles. This is a plaque that is only given to port employees that retire after 30 years. So it actually took a special act of not necessarily Congress, but our Congresswoman was in support of this to get this special plaque here. Like Tom LaBonge, the Angels Gate Lighthouse is the unofficial welcoming monument of the city of Los Angeles, and so it's my great pleasure to present this plaque to Tom.
Thank you very much. That's very nice.
Thank you, Don. In the theme of the Port of Los Angeles, we also have a very special message from the U.S. House of Representatives, and that is from Congresswoman Janice Hahn of the 44th District, and I believe we have a tape.
For 40 years, Tom LaBonge is not going to be part of the city of Los Angeles. No one loves the city more than you do. No one has been a better ambassador for the city of Los Angeles than you. And honestly, no one will be as missed when they leave as you. It really was a highlight of my political career to serve for 10 years on the city council with you. I loved it when you and I sat next to each other because we plotted about everything, we whispered about everything. We had a game that we played that if we were on a desert island, which one of our colleagues would we take with us? I think at one point we couldn't think of anybody, and it was just going to be you and me on the island. But I remember it was Jose Huizar that broke us up, and while we were excited for him to join us on the city council, we secretly were very upset that he was going to come between us, and no longer would we sit next to each other. But one of the things I wanted to say was something that my mother always said, and kind of hurt Jim's feelings, and it hurt my feelings, because we're the two children of Kenny Hahn. And my mother always said that you reminded her more of Kenny than anybody else, even her two children. So everything you did was so Kenny Hahn, and sometimes I was jealous that you actually got him better than I got him. And who can forget that great day when we had a traveling motorcade coming down the 110 freeway, carrying Reggie the alligator in a cage. It was almost like the OJ chase, and we had news helicopters above us, and at the other end at the LA Zoo, there you were, waiting with open arms to accept Reggie the alligator and give him a home. He went from being my constituent to your constituent in a matter of moments, and I know you've taken good care of him. I will never forget the time that we got bad information and we thought that John Paul II had passed away. So you grabbed me and you said, have you ever rung the bell at the top of City Hall? I said, no. He said, this is a momentous occasion. We went all the way up to the tower of City Hall. You leaned halfway over, grabbed the bell, and started ringing it, announcing that the great Pope had passed away. Unfortunately, we had bad information, and the Pope had not died yet. So we were out there ringing the bell for, I guess we were predicting that he would die soon. You have been a star in Los Angeles, but you were also a star internationally. I'll never forget the time I went to the Berlin City Hall, and I was touring the City Hall, and what should I find but Tom LaBonge photographs hanging in the Berlin City Hall. Everyone loves you. Everyone appreciated your work for our sister cities. So let me just say that I had a few props here, like the basketball, the baseball, because no matter what issue we were talking about in City Council, you would call up to your office and you would get a prop. I think I was hit in the head by a flying football for one of your speeches. But you were just great. You were a force bigger than life. So from me to you and all the ships at sea, I just wish you the best retirement ever, Tom. And as you always said, as your sign-off on your voicemail, let us continue to enjoy and love the great city of Los Angeles. Take care, Tom.
And Tom can relate to anyone, from the common person on the street to superstars like Jane Fonda, who he knows. But one celebrity who's here today is a friend of his, and that is Mr. Neil McDonough, to my right here, another supporter of Tom LaBonge.
Hi, everyone. As Isaac so perfectly put out, where's your tie, actor boy? Thank you very much. It is such an honor for Reve and myself, my wife Reve, to be here for Tom. Tom has done, we have 5 children, and what he's done for just our school at St. Brendan, for the whole community of St. Brendan, Hancock Park, for Larchmont. If there's anything that ever needed to be done, Tom says, call me. And people do, and he gets it done. That doesn't happen in politics anymore. We're blessed to have him as our guy. I can't wait to see what he's going to do next. We're there for you 100%. Tom, we love you.
And now, representing the Department of Transportation, and a man who has been called upon, Councilmember LaBonge and many of us others, on multiple and different occasions, who is always there when we need him most, and that is Zaki Mustafa from the Department of Transportation. We were thinking of ideas on how we could immortalize a great public figure. You know, Tom LaBonge is a proud alumni of John Marshall High School, a man who has shown us all how to continue to love and enjoy Los Angeles. And Tom, today we dropped a motion, and on Monday, June 29th, we will dedicate the intersection of St. George and Tracy in front of John Marshall High School as Tom LaBonge Square.
Councilman Tom LaBonge. Where are you, Zaki? It's only 10 o'clock at night. Shouldn't be home. In his nearly 40 years with the city, Councilman Labange has dedicated his career to serving the community and improving the quality of life for all of our families. He's always been a straight-talk, common-sense leader from his campaign speech, and has shown me the true meaning of servant leadership. I've had the honor and the privilege to work with him now for almost 30 years, and I've seen how customer service is his first and foremost priority. What I admire most about Tom is that he's always positive, and he serves with a humble heart, no matter what time of the day it is or what day it is. He's always there for us. Councilman is always quick to realize and recognize us in the city family for the work that we do and of our accomplishments with that loaf of bread that he always carries with him. He encourages all of us to be creative and come up with solutions for no matter what the problem is. And one thing that I've learned from Councilman is that if you put your mind together and if you all work together, no matter what the problem is, it can be solved. And Tom, together we are the best. Councilman Labange, I and our great General Manager Salida Reynolds from the Department of Transportation would like to thank you for letting us be part of your journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Zachy, Mitch, I'm just very honored. I want to thank Ms. Reynolds, but I really want to thank Eric Taylor and all the guys at the sign shop over there at Piper Tech. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's you. In closing, just a quick personal note here is that Tom was someone who urged me to run for public office. I'd worked with him since 2002, right along with my predecessor, Mayor Garcetti. And when the time came, Tom said, Mitch, you've got three things. You've got a head, you've got a heart, and you've got your hands, and use all three. But I really think that that speaks to Tom more than anyone else or anything else, because he knows that you have to have a head for knowing, with ideas to improve the quality of life in one's district. You have to have a heart because you love people and care for people at every level. And you have to have the hands because you're willing to do the work, the dirty work, the heavy lifting, to make your district an incredible place and an example for the whole city. And to me, that encapsulates all that Tom Labange is and what he has done and his record over 39.6 years. And that is Tom Labange, Mr. Los Angeles. So you are and always will be a true angel in the City of Angels, and it is in that spirit that we present to you this certificate that is signed by every elected official with more whereases than we could even possibly imagine. No one else will ever have as many whereases because, Tom, you've earned them all. You're an incredible public servant. We're all indebted to you, whether we know it or not. So, ladies and gentlemen, God bless Tom Labange.
If we can get the photographers down front to move so that our photographers in the back.
Mitch, get in. Get right here, Mitch. Get in.
Okay, guys in the front, let's be fair to the guys in the back. Smile again, Tommy.
All right, here we go.
Mitchell, we cannot see you.
I know, here we go. Boom, boom.
You could have just had his little hair. All righty. Mr. Labange. Mr. Labange. I believe there are a few members that would like to say a word where it relates to their experiences with you, beginning with Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeez, he's not dead, guys. He's just getting started. And Tom, I love how you just hoisted that money shot that you're always looking for. I love it. You, the first time, colleagues, I met Tom Labange was in 2006 in these chambers, where we signed the official agreement with the Sister Cities Association and named Ischia as one of our sister cities in Italy. And I was with my then 3-year-old son. And it was the official signing with Carmela Funicello. Anthony Prozzi was here at the time with us. We went to the back. We celebrated, took photos. And I'll never forget when you hoisted my 3-year-old, plopped him on the podium, and held him and gave him the Little Italy sign. And that was my introduction to you, Tom. How much love, respect, and enthusiasm you have for the people that you serve and the people that you surround yourself with. And I've learned such a great deal in the short time I've been sitting in this horseshoe from you. You've always told me the importance of picking 1 or 2 great big projects that you want to accomplish and focus, be laser focused on those issues. And of course for us is Jordan Downs and the LA waterfront. You also taught me the importance of service and constituent services, how they should be in the forefront of what we do in and day out. I'll miss a number of things here when you leave us, Tom. Of course, I'm going to miss the calendars that you gave me at the start of the new year, the pumpkin bread that you gave us every so often, the football passes that you would just strike here, and it was a solid throw right on the chest. Also, the library card inspections that you often call for in committee. But what you always told us, there's no place like home. You always refer back to what Dorothy said, and of course the importance of never forgetting your roots and never forget your home and where you came from. And colleagues, there's always been a lot of chatter in the recent months from the Daily News, the LA Times, on what Tom's going to do next. So I took it upon myself to create a top 10 list on what's next for Tom. So number 10, travel agent for the Los Angeles Sister Cities International Program. Number 9, field deputy for Councilman Buscaino. Number 8, the official greeter at LAX.
Here he is.
Number 7, high school football reporter for ABC 7. Number 6, the line manager at Pink's Hot Dogs. There she is. Number 5, honorary nun at the Monastery of the Angels in Hollywood, where the pumpkin bread you will find today. Number 4, Starline tour guide. Number 3, reserve sanitation truck driver. He loves our sanitation workers. Number 2, Griffith Park dog walker. And the number 1 top 10 item that Tom's gonna, superhero costume guy at Chinese Theater on Hollywood. Tom, we love you. Thank you for leading us. You will be sorely missed. And thank you for guiding me and mentoring me. I love you and your family, Bridget, the kids, thank you.
Members, I promise you, had I known Joey B was going to do that, I would have made him go last. I really would hate to go behind Mr. Buscaino, and guess who it is? Mr. Paul Koretz.
Well, you'd think this couldn't be much worse. I've actually had a worse experience, which I have to share with you. I'm kind of a shy, low-key politician as it is, but I was on the West Hollywood City Council 25 years ago. I was shyer. So there was the March on Sacramento for gay and lesbian rights. There were 20,000 people in the audience surrounding the Capitol, and I followed Jesse Jackson. And my speech was so little listened to that when I completed it, people didn't even notice. And my West Hollywood colleague, John Heilman, spoke after me, and at the end of his speech, he said, "And if a queen like me can get elected, anyone can." And I spent the day having people ask me if I had come out at that speech. So, could be worse, but not much. Now, I've known Tom since we were both on the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council in the mid-'70s with the wonderful Olivia Mitchell. And let's give her a hand. Although I've been a council member for a long time in a couple places, Tom is really my role model for constituent services. There is no one like Tom, and if something isn't getting done, he will actually get out and do it himself. And probably everyone in CD4 and surrounding areas, including me, have seen Tom out there doing something like being out there with a shovel and removing some weeds or whatever. Just an amazing example. And the thing I love best about Tom is when you see him with a random person, a random visitor to City Hall, and they're not someone that will politically be of any advantage to him. He'll never see these people again, but he will show them the kind of friendly courtesy that we think is dead, but it's not. It's alive in Tom LaBonge. Now, sometimes he'll give speeches and you'll sort of wonder where they're going and what new reference that you didn't expect will happen, but I think that's just because Tom is sort of the poet of the city council, and it's just creativity. I know he has one regret in all his years in city government and city council, and that's that in reapportionment he couldn't move over a few feet and get pinks into his district. But I still have it, so. I enjoy his references to history of music and film and art and life. I've enjoyed that on the council, and I'll miss it. The one thing I'll also miss is the city council is, as long as I've watched city politics, which has probably been 50 years, there's always been some great character, some big personalities, and Tom is really the last of that. And we will miss that, Tom. I'll try my best to replace you, but I don't think I can be much help in that regard, honestly. And I just have one question left that I've always wanted to ask you. Where'd you go to high school?
Paul Koretz, probably the absolute best member to follow Joe Buscaino. You were phenomenal, Paul. Okay, the pressure is now on Mr. Michael Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Tommy, for everything you've done. I was struck by the fire department talking about how they had special training for how to manage the council member in the case of a fire. And I was thinking, geez, Herb probably did the same thing, which is why he appointed you as assistant pro tem, so you were up there. As I was thinking today, I've had like a sort of a series of snapshots in my head of memories of you. And I remember your first committee meeting that you were chairing as a council member. It was upstairs on the 10th floor. I was working for Ruth Galander. And I guess it must have been in education and neighborhoods. Greg Nelson came up to testify at the table. and he referred to you as Councilman LaBonge. And you said, no, call me Tommy. And Greg said, no, I'm calling you Councilman because you've earned it. And there's probably nobody who's earned it as much as you did. I have a very harrowing memory of being with you. One day when I was working for Bill, you decided to invite us out to lunch one day. And we went to some fried fish place south of here. And then you took us for a ride. All of a sudden, you were driving us around downtown, and all of a sudden we made a sharp turn, and we started going down sort of a steep road, and all of a sudden we were on the LA River. And we were driving over the riverbed, and we were going through all sorts of tunnels and stuff like that, and I thought, we're going to die here. I thought that driving with Bill was the scariest experience I'd ever had in my life. You actually topped that. I remember when I got elected, or I guess it was during the campaign, we had breakfast. I think it was at Philippe's. And you brought me over to a big map of the old rail system in Los Angeles. And you just had so much passion talking about it. And you were really encouraging me. When you take this job, think big, dream big, and try to do the big things that make LA such a great city. And I remember you had a gift for upstaging us. One of my first things on council was something about parking meter reform, not giving tickets to people when the meters were broken. And it was a big day, and there were a lot of cameras here for it. And all of a sudden, you've reached down into that bottomless pit of supplies you have underneath your desk, and you pulled out a tire. It was a big tire, and you had a piece of chalk, and you were illustrating the importance of meter maids or meter readers. And of course, that was the photo of the day, was Tom LaBonge with a big tire. Thanks for that. I also remember how almost every 2 weeks since I've been here, you ask how Bill Rosendahl is doing. And every now and then you ask me how Ruth Galanter is doing. You just have a huge history about this building, and you never really forget anybody. You've been a great role model for me. Paul mentioned it. My first day in office, I thought, what would Tom do? I actually did. And so the first day, I went out and I picked up trash, and I served lunches to seniors and stuff like that. And I remember on, I guess it was my fourth day in office, it was July 4th, they had all sorts of traffic officers around Venice and the marina for the fireworks show. And I was driving home, and I'd been in like 2 parades, and I was tired, I wanted to get home. And then all of a sudden I stopped, and I turned around, because I thought of what would Tom LaBonge do. Every time I've been with you, and you see a city employee, you stop and say hello. So that's something I've learned from you, and I've made it a custom, because it's the kind of appreciation you have for city employees. You have such a huge, rich legacy. Anyone who hikes in Griffith Park has you to thank. Anyone who visits that zoo has you to thank. Anybody who goes through LAX, especially the Tom Bradley International Terminal, I will never call it Tibbet, has you to thank. And I think people tend to forget, anybody who rides the Wilshire Subway has you to thank for all the work you did on Metro. So, you know, in a week and a half or so, there's going to be some new faces here, and there's going to be new energy, but we're going to miss a few things. There will be no one here who will tell us how to pose for photos. There's going to be no one here who is going to give us history lessons and tell us about the times of John Ferraro and remind us about sort of the arc of history and all those we succeed. There's going to be no one as good as you have been at appreciating all the city employees who come here. You know everybody by name, especially Avak, who you call out several times a week. Avak should have actually been up there for the presentation. I think after all this time, he deserves a bit of a rebuttal. And also, when you're gone, we're going to miss the incredible, incredible spirit that you've brought to this chamber. You have so shown us how to love Los Angeles and how to love the city, and it's a level that I don't think we can hope to match, because it's been a joy to behold. So today, I think that Tom Bradley and I think Big John are looking down and smiling with incredible pride at everything you've done. Thanks, Tommy.
Mr. Cedillo.
Mr. President, it's a rough day. Everybody's on their game, on their par. I mean, the mayor, we know he's a smart guy. We know he's eloquent, but he nailed it. I think everybody should just attach their comments to the mayor until you hear Joe with his top 10. I was going to suggest he can come and work for me. It's closer.
Oh, with that.
Right? And then Paul, I wish I could be that Louis C.K. funny without trying to be funny, right? I'm not funny, I'm sorry. I'm just not. I suck at that. So let me talk about my dear friend, Tom LaBonge from the Heart. We met at Larry Nicola's, a mutual friend of ours, great guy. And, I got to know Tom. One of the great things about knowing Tom is when you go to his house, he has this array of friends. And then you think, wow, if you fit in there, you're like, I'm part of that whole array of friends, right? And there's all kinds of, mostly guys, all kinds of guys there, right? Like guys you grew up with, guys you forgot in the 2nd grade, guys you fought with in the 7th grade, guys you drank a beer with when you weren't supposed to in the 9th grade or 10th grade. A bunch of guys, and then you get amazed because they're all Tom's friends, right? And so the great thing about him is that he keeps his old friends, and it speaks very highly of him. I have a quote about leadership from John Maxwell. It says, leadership is not about title, positions, or flow charts. It's about the one life influencing another. And by that definition, Tom, you are one of LA's greatest leaders. And there is no question about it. You are the consummate public servant. You are helping me tremendously do this job. Because this job of public service at the local level is a difficult job. It's very challenging. It makes high demands of you personally, and for some of us, Koretz and myself, modest at the core, the public service part of interfacing with the public is difficult. And so for us, for me, I just emulate you, just throw my hands out, right? Throw a pass, right? Do that little deal, right? And so those are the things that you're teaching us to embrace and love the public. I love you because you are a great man to your family. You and your wife met the same challenges my wife and I met. And you did so with just incredible courage. And you walked right through it. Right? You were like the pulling center, and you were going to turn that corner and take out that linebacker. And you did that. And so, and you're that same way with your friends. And you're that same way with your friends. And that's why you're the great leader that you are. And, just love you so much. You're welcome. The 1st district is right near the 4th, it's not a far drive. It used to be the 4th. Exactly, it used to be the 4th, right? And so, anytime you want to, play catch, you give me a call. This old arm, I can get a good 7 yards, 10 yards in there, Let me say the last quote, Mr. President, and you all sit down. The one thing that's amazing is being the ambassador of Los Angeles, and I think that should be your next title. Ambassador of Los Angeles, maybe we put a motion in to create that. Is those endless acts of leadership that you engage in every day. Every single day when you stop to help somebody, when you're cleaning out a gutter, when you stick your head in a restaurant to see if everybody's okay, and I'm sitting in there in the 4th district going, right? Tom was here, right? I walk in there, oh, Tom was here, oh, okay, right? Right, exactly, here's a Bach. But the final quote of Maxwell, real leadership is being the person Others will gladly and confidently follow you. And I will follow you anywhere, my brother. God bless you. Love you.
Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me begin by saying that I'm in absolute denial. I am. Tom, you asked me to go look at the exhibit. I didn't, because I'm not prepared to see you off, and I don't think Los Angeles is either. Mr. Price, do you know what the mascot is for John Marshall High School? Johnny Barrister. You know what their colors are? Sunlit and midnight blue, right? We've been talking, some of us secretly, in terms of who it is that's going to begin, or how many of us are going to begin to emulate Mr. LaBonge, because there are many, many jobs here that Mr. LaBonge does. You heard, I think, very artfully by the mayor and everybody that followed the mayor, the tremendous role that you've played for the city of Los Angeles, and I don't think that there's any one of us that can do it by themselves. I think what's impressive about you, Mr. LaBonge, is that you really embody everything that a steward should. And you do it with so much flair and so much love and so much grace, and you do it with a beautiful family, which is incredible to do. And so let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you, Tom LaBonge family, Bridget and the kids, for sharing him with us. I have to imagine that my denial will sort of end soon in the coming weeks after the recess, when we have a new council and new people here, and it will sit very heavy then to me that you won't be here. And I'm afraid that we're going to have to find hobbies for Mr. Los Angeles here, Bridget, because he's going to be home. So find yourself some hobbies. Don't drive the family crazy. That's what all of us folks who retire do, unfortunately. It's often said that in Los Angeles there are 16 mayors, and that there isn't really one mayor and a council. All of us have these responsibilities, and we have to oversee so much. I would argue that there really are only two. It's whoever was elected mayor and Tom LaBonge. It doesn't matter which mayor is in office. I think Mr. Buscaino, Mr. Bonin, all of us have experienced that you don't stay in your district. You've been at my district, you've come to my events, and I think we're better for it. So in the spirit of trying to figure out who's going to take on some of your characteristics, Avak, where are you? Avak? Avak, where are you, Avak? Avak, I need a motion changing the charter of Los Angeles to have two mayors, okay? So let's go ahead and work on that. And I also have to imagine that we are probably going to evade Mr. City Attorney. Dion, Mr. City Attorney, we're going to evade an awful lot of Brown Act violations now that Mr. LaBonge isn't speaking on items, because, Tom, you never stayed on course. You always talked about everything other than the agendized item. It's all important, but it's agendized, it's Brown Act. We're going to save a lot of money, Mr. City Attorney. You've been an ambassador to, I think, the greatest city on the planet. You really have been. I mean, you've been everywhere. And in the spirit of trying to follow your lead, colleagues, I've already been to Japan and Australia in less than a year on business, promoting the city of Los Angeles, trying to learn how to do better. So, Jose, I'm going after that sister city thing. Sorry. I just gave him up, because we really have been talking about what it is that we're all going to do to pull our weight around here. The love that you have for Los Angeles is incredible, and I think that if we were able to package that and give that to every Angelino, then we really would have a revolution of the heart here in the city. The things that are facing us are very difficult, and you have constantly shared with all of us that we're the future of Los Angeles and you're the past. Well, we wouldn't be prone and ready to do the best possible job but for your leadership and your influence on all of us. So I'm very excited to be here with you, and I'm not going to say goodbye, and I'm not going to go look at that exhibit. If I've got a question, I'm going to do what you do. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to ask you what it is that I should do. If I've got any sort of concern about what it is that we're doing, I'm not going to wait around for an answer. I'm going to walk around and find out for myself like you did. You do. And so, it's not a goodbye. It's a till I see you later. And, one of the favorite things that you say to me, lots of them, I'm going to say to you. You might be number 4 in the lineup, but you're number 1 in my heart, Tom. Thank you.
Mr. Huizar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tom, you love the city of Los Angeles, and she loves you back. We love you, Tom. This is something that Felipe and I have actually been talking about for over a year now. We were thinking how much we're going to miss you. It's not going to be the same around here anymore. You bring an energy to this room that is much needed. You bring a love to this room that is much needed, and we love you for that. I was called several times by constituents, and they thanked me for improving our city services. Somebody said, some guy came up today and cleaned my front sidewalk. And this guy, one of these guys, were from the Arts District, where we haven't delivered those types of city services in a very long time. It's an industrial area, and they were thanking me for you being out there, sweeping up, doing things. And so, this is something, as the mayor said, you didn't do it in front of the cameras. You just doing it out there because you love this city. And I just am going to miss you tremendously. I'm going to miss your advice, too. Taking pictures. You tell me, stick in your stomach. Stick out your neck. After a while, I thought I was looking like a turtle in the pictures, but we all appreciate that. You not only gave us advice because you cared about us, but you were looking at the bigger, grander picture about what is possible. So we are going to miss you. I'm going to miss you telling me what streets should be renamed in my district. Where should we put up squares in my district to name them after somebody? What should we do at Placita Alvera? And to bring in more of the history there. Lots of things. And one day when I was on the board of Metro and I couldn't make it at that time, Mayor Villaraigosa asked you to substitute there. The next day in the LA Times said, Red Line, light rail being extended to the Arts District. And I said, Tom did more in one day that I was there than I had done the whole year. But you have a lot of enthusiasm. The last thing I'll say, I couldn't think of what type of gift I could give you as your parting way. And I know you've given out bread many times to people from the monastery. So as I got up this morning, I went around my neighborhood and I was looking for something similar. There's a lot of panaderias in my neighborhood, right? So the only thing I could find to give you as your parting way, Tom, was some Mexican pan dulce. But I love you, Tom.
Mr. Bob Blumenfield.
Thank you. Tom, I've probably known you less time than everybody here, but and just really our 2 years that we've gotten to overlap together, but I am so grateful for those 2 years together. I've just, I want to attach and echo what I've heard from all my colleagues in that you have been a role model in so many ways and someone to emulate. I've modeled my constituent service after much of what you've done. We've stolen your ideas, although I've told you that we're stealing them when we were doing it, and you said, you gave me that thumbs up, attaboy, do it, when we wanted to get the truck like you had the truck. In fact, I asked my staff to get a football so I could throw it at you right now, but then I said, you know what, I better not, because what's going to happen is Tom does it, he surprises him, throws a football at the person at the podium, hits him dead on. I know that I would throw it at you. I would hit one of these nice ladies in the front row, and that would be a bad thing. So, I just wanted to echo, and you often quote, I think it's the Isaac Newton quote about if I see further, it's only because I stand on the shoulders of greatness. And you often say that when you're talking about an accomplishment and how you cite Ferraro and Bradley as the shoulders that you stand on to see further and to make things happen. Well, if all of us here are going to do great things in the future, it's only because we have your broad shoulders to stand on. And I'm extremely grateful, and I thank you for your service and for being a friend and a mentor. Thank you, Tom.
Mr. Curran Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. Like Bob, I've only known you for 2 years, Tom, but it seems like 102 years. And I see I'm not alone. You just affect everybody that way. You've got that power, that magnetism, that authenticity, that honesty that just really rings through. And so we're gonna miss you. We're gonna miss all of your ideas, your suggestions. I remember, the lunch we had shortly after I came in, and we did a tour around the 9th District. And you were telling me about places on Central Avenue and on Broadway and on Avalon, and how I should rename the district office. And so, Tom, I want you to know I've taken all those things into consideration. I appreciate your love, appreciate your commitment to the city. We know that you love the city loves you. Keep up the good work.
Paul Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tom, this is a really festive occasion, but I got to tell you, I hate it. I hate it because I'm really personally going to miss you, and I'm going to miss you as a member of this council. I'm going to miss you as a citizen of Los Angeles. I started learning from you 22 years ago when I was a grassroots activist in Silver Lake, and I made the mistake of not endorsing you when you ran for city council, and you've schooled me then, and you've been schooling me ever since. You've been schooling me when I was a member of the Assembly and we represented common constituents. You schooled me when I got here, and you actually kind of took me under your wing and served as a mentor of mine. And I've learned from you as your seatmate right up until this very day. And I'm going to miss you, and I'm going to miss that influence that you've had on me a lot. You've taught me how to get things done. I've, for a few years now, chaired Budget and Finance through some really difficult times in this city's history. And, we've dealt with things like metrics and numbers and data and things like that. And you taught me that all you really have to do is say, I know you're having problems with your budget, but we got to do it for the people. We got to do it for the people. And somehow it happens. I'm kind of, some of my colleagues would say, a little bit of a stickler about rules and things around here. I've got my rule book here that I keep on my desk, And I learned from you that really you don't need this. All you need to do is say, Havak, I need a motion. But, I've learned about public service from you. I've learned that whether you have 39.6 years here, or whether you have 12 years, or whether you have 4 years, time is short. And you have to do this work with a sense of urgency. And if you do with passion, you get a lot done. And you have left such an enormous legacy to this city because of that sense of urgency you have, and so much accomplishment that's been talked about. And I think all of us see that as an example of what we can do or hope to be able to do with our careers. You've taught us all about the importance of remembering our past, but also remembering what we're doing today. And people always joke about your, stage managing the photographs and everything, and, come on for the two-shot. Come on, we got to get the two-shot. Boom, boom. We've all done that with you, and we've all sort of poked fun at you about it. But the truth is, by you doing that, you're documenting the history of today as well for future generations. And it's really so important. And most important, I think you've done this job with joy that the rest of us could only hope to emulate. And that's important for the quality of life that we have as we do this job, but much more important than that, it's important for everybody here who sees you with that joy, and it's so infectious that it makes people believe in government. It makes people believe in what the city can accomplish. You've treated every single person you've ever come across with complete respect, whether they're heads of state or whether they're a sanitation worker cleaning out a storm drain. And you knew both of them by name, and you used first names for both of them as well. You've shown us that you can do this job and have fun with it. And most importantly, I think you've shown us all that commitment to family is the most important thing of all. How many people have come up here, that you've reminded them to call their mother? Or, you've reminded them of people that have gone before them and how precious their memory is, and you've been a source of comfort, and you've been very committed to your own family as well. And that's been difficult, I know, because you have a district that is pretty demanding, and it demands a lot of your time. And you know, I think your family is sacrificed, and Bridget and Charles, Mary Kay, I know that you've given up a lot of your time that you could have spent with your dad that he was spending with his constituents. So you've sacrificed a lot for this city as well. But I want you to know that you and your children and your grandchildren and generations after that are going to be able to drive around this city and point to things and say, Tom LaBonge did that. Tom LaBonge did that. Tom LaBonge did that. And that's an incredible legacy that I think all of us could only hope to achieve. I grew up watching Ralph Story's Los Angeles. Tom remembers that. Probably not too many other people in this room do. But Ralph Story's Los Angeles told the story of the city in a personal way and linked us with our past. Then, a little bit after that, Huell Hauser came along and did something similar with that personal touch. I don't know what you're going to do next in life, Tom. I don't know what your next position is. But if there's any TV executives out there listening, I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to watching Tom LaBonge's City of the Angels on PBS or some other. Tom, I never thought I'd do this in a million years, but I gotta say, you've had 4 great quarters. It's the 2-minute warning. You're racing for the goal line. Tom, go deep.
Miss Martinez.
That was good throw, Paul. Good throw. Well, I also didn't think this day was going to come. Having served with Tom for now almost 20 months, there is nothing like sitting next to Tom LaBonge, by the way. I think John has put it in a really good way. But there really isn't anything like sitting next to Tom LaBonge. Your desk is amazing. I mean, there's stuff everywhere. I am a neat freak, so it freaks me out to have your stuff spilled over to my desk. So for the last 20 months, I've been containing Tom at every single council meeting. But what is amazing about Tom is his impeccable memory. His detailed memory. Every time he autographs a picture, there is the name, the place, the time, and the date of where the picture was taken. And these incredible folders that his staff runs around getting. I mean, the amount of detail that goes into Tom and every picture that he takes and the memory that came from that picture is amazing. But what I'm going to miss the most, Tom, is the fact that you hold my hand every time you have to take a difficult vote, with all due respect to Bridget. And the fact that sometimes, you know, I help, you know, guide every time it gets a little crazy. But there is no person, you're an extraordinary man. You are a wonderful humanitarian. You have been such a good friend to me. Your advice and a mentor. I will never forget those 2 things. What you told me when I got here. I earned my keep, and I needed to work hard for my constituents, and I've been doing that ever since. I love you to the moon and back, Tom. I'm going to miss you, but your family has now the time to enjoy you. There will never be another Tom LaBonge in the city of Los Angeles. Congratulations for your years of service. I love you.
Ms. Martinez, I'd now like to call on Mr. Herb Wesson.
And now, Mr. Herb Wesson.
Thank you very much. I just want to just say a couple of things. A couple of things that I'm not going to miss. And that's when you come up and hug on me and twirl me around. I'm a flashy urbanite. And now I don't have to worry about my clothing being destroyed by Tom LaBonge. I also will not have to come here on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday and debate who has the worst tie, you or Mr. Koretz. Mr. Koretz, you will be the champion, finally. But on a serious note, I think you felt genuine love from the members that you've served with. And there may have been times when we weren't always on the same side. But what happened today was 13 other people saying to you in a variety of ways that they love you and that they're going to miss you. You cannot replace a Tom LaBonge. That is an impossibility. And members, I love this job you've given me, and I hope to get it again in a few days. But I want to honestly say that there are times when this is very challenging and just unbelievably difficult. And as I'm trying to keep my head to always know that Tom would come up, what do you need? I'm with you. How can I help you? Take a deep breath. It's going to be all right. You don't know how important that was to me personally. When I look around this horseshoe, nobody around this horseshoe has known each other as long as you and I. When we came in, you had a full head of hair. I had a 28 waistline. You still have a great hair. My waist now is blah. But Mr. LaBonge has been there time and time again. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is literally losing a friend. There won't be a day that I won't come up and sit in that chair and look at this desk and look for you. There won't be a day that I will expect my phone to ring at 8 in the morning or 6 and have you on it telling me, I'm going to be 7 minutes late, Mr. President. You know, now I'll be a little late. I'm going to be 7 minutes and 23 seconds late. But on behalf of this council and all of the employees that work in this building and outside, we all want to say to you, well done. Not bad at all. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up one more time for the great Tom LaBonge.
Tom, throw me the football.
Oh, you got it right now. Here we go. Ready? You're very good, Nuri. Members, thank you very, very much for this here. And my wife, Bridget, thank you for putting up with me for all these years, because it is very difficult. We met on June 16th, 1979 at 6907 Lancashire Boulevard. It was a Saturday. I had a date with a girl who used to work at City Hall, and she called me at 2:45 in the afternoon, and I was sweeping the front steps of my house down the street, and she said she broke the date. And then at 3:30, my cousin Carolyn called me and said they have a friend just out of the blue. Would you have an extra ticket for Hoyt Accent at the Palomino? And that's how I met my wife and been with her ever since. So special. And I truly want to thank my children, Mary, Catherine, and Charles. As young infant children, I was then working for the mayor, and they went to every spot of Los Angeles. Mayor Reardon, the job I had from him is to cover many places in the city and represent. And I remember I'd run into sometimes fire retirements, and the fire chief's wives would hold you babies, you know, as I make the speech that needed to be made about the firefighter retiring, which is so special. Mary Kate, I love you, and I love you, Charles, and I want you to know that it's been tough because we always haven't been there, but they did school me one time, Joe. They said, listen, I don't want to go to the park again if there's a microphone there, you know, so I'd say teach them off there. But I want to thank my grandfather, Alexander Labange, who lived at 310 North Los Angeles Street. The only reason I knew that was I went to Berlin once in the early 80s, and I met distant relatives, and anything could read. It was over 100 years ago that the only thing that was English was the address, 310 North Main Street. He came from Germany. The other side of the family, all Irish. Thomas Joseph Lernahan, who I'm named after, he was a Los Angeles police officer on Central Street, where my mother was born 100 years ago. They had 11 children in the first district there. When he made sergeant, Mr. Wesson, he moved to 10th and Lucerne. That's what sergeant's pay could have done back then in the 30s. But my parents were extremely special to me. And as the mayor said, you know, and the Mayor Garcetti is such a wonderful individual, knowing him, working close to him over the time. My parents gave me everything that I got. My parents and my brothers gave me everything that I got. My mother, on October 6, 1953, called Mrs. O'Brien, and Mrs. O'Brien lived over on Tesla Avenue, and said, come over and watch my brother Bobby, my brother Tim, my brother Chris, and brother Dennis. Then she drove my brother Brian and Steve into school that morning and went down Sunset Boulevard to up Coronado, up to Queen of Angels Hospital. I was born at 8:45, and the doctor asked, hey, do you want me to invite Bob upstairs? Because back then, dads couldn't come into the room, and my mother forgot to tell my father she was having another son that day. But our parents, and I don't know, Mike, you said something there, my parents, my brother Bobby, give my brother Bobby a big hand right there. Stand up, Bobby. My brother Bobby told me to vote for the livable wage. My brother Dennis, who lives in Orange County, told me not to. I voted with my brother Bobby. All right, good job. Okay. So, and my brother Mark, who's my youngest brother, who I'm so proud of, and all of my brothers. But on Sunday night, we would have everybody around the table, and my father would want us all to tell a quick story. And when you say upstage or whatever it is, Nuria is the sister that I don't have in this council, and you're the brothers, you know, in this period of this time. Because if I could upstage you, I'm upstaging my brother Bobby, or I'm upstaging my brother Tim, or Brian, or Stephen, or Dennis, or Chris, or Mark, any one of them, because that's kind of what I learned, because I was 7 of 8. And in my life, I, as a big family, got to take the trash out every Thursday. It's a special day. And the trash men were the nicest guys in town. And they let me push the button because we loaded from the back, Sharon, so there was no automation. And they were very nice on that. And then they came in the neighborhood every summer to burn the lots, because it was before we had air control. They burned the weeds off the lots, and there was a lot of lots back at Silver Lake there. And believe it or not, they trimmed trees on a 3-year cycle, because we knew Mr. Henry's name, who was the superintendent of trees, and he came every 3 years, and my mother always brought ice water down to the the crews that are there. My family taught me so much. My mom and dad were born in Los Angeles, and that really taught me so much. And we didn't go on planes anywhere, but we went to Griffith Park or Elysian Park, or we go to San Pedro and watch the longshoremen with cargo, no containers back then, Joe. And we take the ferry across the terminal island, and we'd explore the city, which was so important, the city that I love. But having the opportunity to work here was very special. And Olivia Mitchell has been one of the greatest mentors, not just for me, but all young people working for Mayor Bradley. I know Paul Koretz, Ed Reyes, Wendy Gruhl, myself, a bunch of judges, all were in the Youth Council, and that was a great opportunity. And in 1975, I was up at the observatory, and there was Mr. Bradley. And Mr. Bradley was just leaving after a program. And as he left after a program, a woman's car was broken down. And Mayor Bradley got out of his car, went in his car, and took jumper cables out and jumped the woman's car. I carry jumper cables in my car because of Tom Bradley, because that's service to all people and they need. All service and all need. But so many times. And I told that story the other day, and coming home, someone was broken down. They went to Roosevelt Hill. They were broken down. They were right off of Griffith Park Boulevard. I jumped them, and I told that story that day. But from Mayor Bradley and the great opportunity to Peggy Stephen, who did groundwork that Mitch is now carrying off in a great way, revitalizing Hollywood in so many ways, to the Olympic movement that took place there. That was such a moment for Los Angeles, because Montreal had overruns, and everybody would say no to the Olympics. But Mayor Bradley stood tall, John Farrar stood tall, and it was an 8-7 vote. And Marvin Browdy cast the 8 vote. And that was such a big, tough deal, but it was so great to welcome the world to Los Angeles. And having them to work for 16 years with John Ferraro, and in pre-9/11 times, going to the Olympic Games, I drove John to 24 different events. And we'd park right here, and right where Herb is right there is the entry, and saw the world. And that really just got into my mind how we have to do that again, and I hope one day that we will do that. But having that opportunity to work with John Ferraro, who never made people crawl to him, never did things for the city. And the great thing, too, about the city is the title of your card says, if you pull it out of your pocket, is Los Angeles City Council member, not anything but that. So we're all responsible for the whole city and the good. And John had a motto, if it's good for the city, it's good for the district. But working for John and then working for Dick Reardon was very good, because Mr. Reardon was absolutely positive after the tragic earthquake, and we saw what happened and trying to bring the city back together. And then going to the Department of Water and Power, which I'm proud of the Department of Water and Power. They do have to correct some things, but they should stand tall, because this power is coming from somewhere, and there's somebody in 95-degree heat pulling a line up off a transmission line. Because you know how many, Mr. Weezar, I don't have to ask you, but I would tell you, it's 3 things that run a power company: generation, transmission, and distribution, and DWP does that well. But all the challenge they have, I want them to get over those hurdles, because we have to believe in our city, and the water is so precious. This morning we broke ground for a water line, Reclaim Water, and Stephen Coleman from Channel 7 explained how Reclaim Water works, and he's a great cameraman. And I had to explain to him, well, you got up this morning, Stephen, and you left your bedroom and you went to another room in your house, and you used a facility, and you moved it down, and then it went down to the reclaim plant, and they treated it, and now it's in a line into Griffith Park to make all the grass green. So he understood that, which was very good. But that opportunity, and then to get to leave Water Power to come here and get elected, it was a very big honor. It was a big, big, big honor to serve with people. And why I asked what high school you go to, and I know some of you from out of the Ohio and back east and other places, Morningside, right? Okay. So it tells us where we are started from. And this is like a team. This is like a team that you're on. And I was on a team, and the team was Los Angeles. And we were winning every day, fighting for it. So that was the real key thing in all these years, and the great things to try to do. And as Joe said, you picked 1 or 2 things you got to go for. And Mike on that subway, it was really saying, and I like Mayor Villaraigosa and what he did after me, and Mike Fear, what he did as assemblyman after me, because you get down the field and somebody else takes over and does that in such a way there. Because I walked over to Mr. Hahn, I was on the MTA board, and Mr. Hahn, I said, Mayor, do you want to start the subway up again? And he said,
you could do it, Tom. So I took it like I got the ball. And I wasn't successful in the first moment, but then I went to Santa Monica City Hall, Culver City, Beverly Hills, and West Hollywood. He got them behind. And then Mr. Yaroslavsky, who's been a great champion for all this region in so many ways, culturally and fiscally, and also on transit, got the subway going again. And Mr. Villaraigosa, I know he says subway to the sea, but also I want the subway to USC, so it gets down to Exposition Park as we build all this whole system out in the future. So all that is so special to have the opportunity working here. And I'm looking to the deputies and the aides that are here. I stood where you stand right now, and I didn't know I would be here. I remember one time I asked John Farrar, hey, John, we're going to be late. We've got to give a guy at KRLA, Johnny Hayes, a resolution. And John still had more business. He reminded me whose name was on the door. God bless you, John. You know that. But all that is your opportunity to help people, which is so important because there's only one day, and that's the day-to-day. So this is, I just really thank this tribute. And Daryl was my first employee, which is so special, and the work, and he did get every couch up there. We get those couches off the ground. And all those folks who came down here, I want to thank Kathy Jones-Irish, my first chief of staff. Stand up, Kathy. Jay Galbraith, too. All that, very good there. And people from the community. And my son, Charles, who is very special, wants to say something. So I want to give him the microphone before I finish. Charles. How far, Raymond?
Thank you. Most of you know my father, Tom, as a colleague or maybe even a stranger, a friend, for a couple of you, a brother. But on behalf of my sister and myself, I think that it was a blessing that we are the children of someone like him. And I can attest to the point that Eric Garcetti made, that Tom is the same person sitting on the couch watching SportsCenter at night as he is getting pumpkin bread from the Angels Monastery and wherever else he is in Los Angeles. Though there are sacrifices that both my sister, my mom, and I had to make, there are plenty of doors opened from this opportunity, and I think it's something that's not replaceable, and it's anything or nothing like it. So I just want to say thank you for everyone helping form this man that stands behind me today, and the man that I will stand by for the rest of my life.
I'm Mary Kate, their daughter. I wanted to share, so many know the Tomisms of let's continue to enjoy and love the city of Los Angeles and safety first, which to my brother and I were annoying when we didn't want to wear bike helmets, or, we wanted to get going and we wanted to jaywalk and he made us go to the crosswalk. But the dadism that's most important to me that I want to share with everyone, I remember the day in 3rd grade that he told me this on the way to school. Once a job has begun, never leave it till it's done. Be the labor big or small, do it right or not at all. And that is so special to me because I carry that with me through both school and work and in everything. And I hope dearly that we can still carry that as his children. I appreciate everything. My brother and I really grew up here, and there are some people I've never gotten the chance to speak to, but you all are a part of our childhood, so thank you so much for everything. And I really appreciate how you've humored him through the years because he loves his job, and he couldn't have done it without you. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to Mitch O'Farrell for organizing this because it's been very cathartic. The feelings that I've been here like 6 weeks at City Hall and in the satellite offices, cleaning out 40 years of collection of memories and photographs and things I thought we gave away. He brought to City Hall. So I thought to myself about 2 months ago, how can I be of service to Tom at this time? And I thought the best thing I can do is to come down and shepherd him out this door, because I brought him here. I'm sorry, so many times. And literally when I walk in here, this is kind of where we live a lot. Our kids know this building. They know how to get to the top without instruction. Our family has lived this life. When Tom got elected, Mary Kate was 7 and Charles was 3. This is how we have lived. And when I met Tom, this is how he lived. And I want to tell you all that I met him 37 years ago, and he's exactly the same person I met as you see today. And I want to tell everyone here, I appreciate your presence, and I'm overwhelmed by the gratitude and the words, because I thought it was going to be easy for me to shepherd him out. It's hard for me to get out as well. Thank you, everybody, so much for loving him and humoring him. I know he's a lot of work. And Gil, when I got sick, I got diagnosed with breast cancer in 2006. I called my councilman, and he came and he helped me out. Tom ran the front lines for me for a year of surgery and recovery, and I can't tell you, in the midst of such craziness in this job, he was there for me every day. He's been there for our family, and I want to tell you that every one of you has contributed greatly to our life, and our children know you all like family, and I very, very, very much appreciate it, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you very much, everybody. I also want to just say thank my staff, my past and former staff, and just come out for a shot real quick. My staff, come up here, Kathy, Jane, come up here. Stacy, Olga, and I want to give a big hand. Yeah, Stacy, get in here. Right, where's Cameron? Camilla Blanche, for the work that you've done on our Sister City program. Give a big hand. I want to give a big, big, big hand for my former Chief of Staff, Carolyn Ramsey, right here. Good job. Here we go. Good job. Okay, get in here. Oh, get Mrs. LaBonge in here. I'm sorry. I know. Get in. We're good. I'm choosing. Get in here. Good job. Hillary, there's the certificate below your foot. Chow. Good job, Chow. All right. Look to the right. Look to the right. Look to the right, guys.
Oh.
Thank you. Good job, Gigi.
Tom, look up. Photoshop.
Good. Up there. All right, good job. Good right there. Baseball style. Everybody out there. All right, good job. All right, good job. Very good. Yeah, good job. Get it right in here. Thank you very, very much. Thank all the city employees for the sound of my voice. Thank Hank Hilty from the Farmers Market. Everybody here. Thank the sound man. Yeah, we're going in the back.
Mr. LaBonge, we're going to take a picture with the members inside the
great.
horseshoe.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. What? Yeah. Okay.
Members, we're taking a picture with Mr. LaBonge inside the horseshoe.
thank you. That was the most harrowing ride of my life.
Everybody's been on that river ride.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm gonna try that. They put them all somewhere. City Hall.
Sergeants, please prepare the council chambers to continue our meeting, please. Sergeants, please prepare council chambers so we continue our meeting.
We could just have her go to the right. We'll be all set. Ladies, if I can have you visit right over there to the right, just go right over there, and we can resume it. As soon as we get everybody left and right of the room.
Madam Clerk? Mr. Labange, sorry.
If we could ask the new director of Los Angeles International Airport to set her table, and I'd like to call on, we had a great committee meeting this morning, but I'd like to call on the district representative, Mr. Bonin. You're going to find this is an excellent candidate. We want her, and I'm sorry about the long presentation because you already could have been doing a half a day's work out at LAX. Mr. Bonin, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Colleagues, you, I'm sure all recall that on last Friday, we said farewell to Gina Marie Lindsay, the person who has been the executive director, the helm of Los Angeles World Airports since 2007, the woman who has brought us from a place of stalled modernization to a place with more modernization projects benefiting the regional economy and the local community than we can probably count. Mayor Garcetti has nominated and BOAC has approved and TCT recommends for our approval Deborah Ali Flint, who is here with us today. I have met with her on several occasions and I'm very excited about this candidacy. Perhaps you can tell us, introduce yourself to the council and outline what you hope to do.
Thank you. It's truly a pleasure to be here in front of the council. this morning. And, I've thought long about the vision of Los Angeles World Airports and LAX, and clearly had a vision that I think spoke to the council and to the mayor and to the commission, one of innovation and returning and making Los Angeles World Airports, an iconic and restoration of the way that Los Angeles was revered in the past, and making sure it's the most modern airport system in the world. And that really spoke to me. But I will tell you that this experience this morning has done something else in regards to my vision. What I heard here today, and I had a glimpse of it, but really today was so revealing, was a love story about Los Angeles. And that love story was told through Councilman LaBonge and everyone that spoke on his behalf today. And as I think about the vision that I have for Los Angeles World Airports now, it's to make sure that we're most innovative, that we have the best passenger experiences, that we're protectors and creators of great environment around the airport, that we have a world-class airport, and that we're first-class neighbors. But that there's a love story as well about our airports that is reflective of Los Angeles, the city, and all that was spoke today, making sure that resonates in a real way as we all think about our airports in the future. So it's my pleasure to be here for this consideration this morning.
Thank you. Colleagues, I've spoken to Deborah about the community, about the incredible number of modernization projects we have going, about how LAWA can stand up and be a leader in sustainability for the world, about the work we need to continue to do to make the airport safe and secure for everybody, and about the passenger experience, and about making Los Angeles World Airports and LAX in particular feel like it's in Los Angeles. She has knocked it out of the park with every answer, and I have a dual duty when it comes to LAX. Having the airport in my district, I have a special role to make sure that airport thrives and grows and serves the economy, but also that it really is a first-class neighbor. And so I always worry when we have a new BOAC appointee or a commissioner that we're not going to get the right person. I've been very pleased with the appointments that the mayor has made to BOAC. We have a first-class airport commission, and I'm really thrilled with his choice of an airport executive director, and I wholeheartedly recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin. Mr. Krikorian? Mr. Price?
Thank you, Madam President. I, too, just am rising to express my support and appreciation for the efforts of Ms. Flint. We know she's going to be an outstanding director, has an exemplary record coming from Oakland. And in conversations I had with Mr. Bonin, too, certainly sense the fact that she is not only committed to our city, to the airport, but to the community as well, and making sure that we all are able to benefit from the exciting activities that are going on at the airport. So we look forward to working with you. It's an important economic development engine for the city, and we know that with your leadership there, we will continue to grow and expand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no more members on the queue. Ms. Flynn, thank you for your patience this morning, and welcome to the city of Los Angeles. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next item 11.
Madam President, for item 11, amending motion 11A has been circulated.
No members on the queue. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
And that's adopted
Item
as amended.
passes. Thank you. Madam Clerk, let's reconsider item 2. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
And for Madam President, I believe there's a card on that item.
First speaker is Mr. Herman. Item 2. Is Mr. Herman here? Mr. Herman is not here. There are no more cards. Madam Clerk, open the...
And Madam President, for this item, council should close the public hearing. The public announcement of the tabulation of ballots will be on tomorrow, June 24th. And you can close the public hearing without an objection if you'd like.
Without objection, thank you. Next item. So let's vote on item 2. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Madam Clerk, let's go to item 25.
Item 25, call special for cards.
Mr. Hunt, he was removed from our meeting earlier. Mr. Herman, item 25.
Madam Speaker, excuse me, Madam Speaker, but I'm here to talk about the trees.
Mr. Herman, are you speaking on the item?
Batman doesn't want you to take down any trees. And he wants you to get Mariposa a different contract, maybe digging holes for the dog park at Herman Park. Yes,
Madam President, he is not speaking to the item.
I am speaking about Mariposa.
Mr. Herman, your voice was perfectly fine less than a minute ago. Can you speak to the item, please? If not, sit down.
Batman is speaking to you today in order to bring the humility of this process of contractors in Boyle Heights, CD14. Obviously, Jose Weezart don't give a rat. He's as fat as a cat and as bald as a man can be. Keep our neighborhoods clean. Keep our trees pruned. Feed it to the goats. And I hold my time to 1 minute.
Next speaker, Wayne Spindler, item 25.
You started my time too soon, Nuri. Okay. Yes, we have to talk like little mice because the large cat from CD14 is over there to strike his paws at us. So, up the tree. That's where you go to climb. Up the tree. You got to get up the tree and hide. Hide from the dangerous animals below. So, squirrels, opossums, cats, they all need trees to hide, to get down from the bottom, from the evil. So please, do what you can, save trees, stop cutting down the trees for all the little animals that are dying because they're running away. They're running away from predators. Like, for example, in CD2, there's a dangerous animal that runs that place.
He is
has
not
a
talking
goatee.
about this item now.
There are no more speakers on item 25. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Weezar,
Madam President, urgent forthwith, please.
forthwith on item 25. Madam Clerk, also forthwith on item 4.
And Madam President, for item 25, council should vote on the urgent forthwith.
Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you. Item 27.
Item 27, call special for cards.
Mr. Walsh, item 27.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dams. This regards a written report prohibiting the construction of single-family homes that do not meet specific criteria. What's happening here is people are trying to build their own homes. Developers don't want that to happen. So they go to the city council and you pass restrictive ordinances that prevent people from building their own homes so that the developers can come in and devour that property. And as we know, the property now in South Central is low, so now they're coming in, the developers buying it, getting rid of the black homeowners, and then turning it into malls as black people are being pushed out of the city. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. There are no more items on item 20. Cards on item 27. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 29.
Item 29, co-sponsored by Councilmember Krikorian.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to ask staff to come forward, please, from the Bureau of Engineering, if they're available. Members, this project was a widening of Burbank Boulevard, of almost 3/4 of a mile of Burbank Boulevard that was funded by the MTA. And as long as that project was moving forward, the DWP, working with my office, saw that there was an opportunity to use that infrastructure investment to improve our groundwater recharge opportunities as well. So I'd like staff just to briefly describe the project, and then I'd like to ask for your aye vote on this great opportunity for departments to work together to take full advantage of an infrastructure investment, both for traffic benefits and environmental benefits at the same time.
Hi, I'm Steve Chen, Bureau of Engineering, Street Program Manager, and joined with me here today is Ron McMingra, the project manager for this project. So what we're doing is we're widening Burbank Boulevard from Lancashire to Cleon. It's about 3/4 of a mile. That's about an $8 million project, and we are widening each side of the road about 12 feet on each side to add traffic lanes, bike lane, parking lane, and as Councilmember Krikorian mentioned, we are partnering with Water and Power to add additional green street elements. What we're doing is actually adding 16 dry wells to intercept the stormwater, and this will help recharge the groundwater for Water and Power. So it's to their advantage, and they're also, as part of this, they're contributing $1 million to help us construct these dry wells. So it's a win-win situation for us. We can get the additional dry well and improve the stormwater quality as well as recharge the groundwater. There also is going to be another water and power project. Just prior to this project, they are going to be installing a large river supply conduit, but we will be coordinating with them and avoiding any conflict. We're on our project, we're currently getting right-of-way, so we expect the project to start construction in, what was it?
January 2017.
Sorry, yeah, I missed it here. Yeah, January of 2017. Any questions?
So, thank you, Madam President. Members, this will bring $1 million from the Department of Water and Power to help support this project. It'll result in over 50 acre-feet a year of stormwater being saved from going to the ocean and instead going back into our groundwater. So it's an important step forward. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to just rise and recognize Mr. Krikorian's leadership in working with our departments and Metro. It's like we'd like to have $14 million more so that each of our districts can benefit from something like this. This is amazing. At a time where we're trying to reimagine and restructure the way that we fix our streets, this is going to be a modeled project moving forward. So, Paul, congratulations on this. As we continue this dialogue of how we fix our streets, 1/3 of our streets are in failed condition. We need to bring in the environmental components, and I know this is also near and dear to Mr. Fuentes, his efforts in greening our streets. So congratulations, thank you. Can't wait to see this project come to life, and please let us know, like to celebrate the official opening of this. So thanks again for your efforts and leadership on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. I have no more. I have 3 cards for public comment. Mr. Wayne Spindler on item 29.
Next.
Well, this is done by the goat.
from CD2, and he's going to get $1 million to put in to waste $1 million on something called storm water. And then he goes in, Paul Krikorian, the goat, he's going to waste the money to try to get a few buckets of storm water. $1 million. It's a waste of money. But, you know, with Paul Krikorian, it's all about graft. So please vote no against the goat. Please don't waste the money. Because over in CD2, it's ran by a goat who feeds on taxpayer money.
Next speaker, Mr. Herman.
Madam Speaker, this is regarding the DWP for $1 million in Burbank for stormwater coverage. The city attorney knows that Paul Krikorian is being padded by the monies of his campaign donors for this Burbank plan. That's why the city attorney turns his back to Batman. It's a fact, Dion. Turn around. No, listen, no impact report submitted. Again, no transparency to the infrastructure and waste and abuse of public money. Bonds and grants of public money, Herman, you and Price. Don't you get it? The city's corrupted by the mafia organized criminals of this arena horseshoe. Batman wants you to all know. I hold you to that. 1 minute.
Next speaker, Antonia Ramirez. Are you here, ma'am?
Thank you. This item by Krikorian and Wesson is a waste of money. What you should be doing, instead of improving these so-called streets or the infrastructure investment, as you call it, is nothing more, again, than a waste of money. That place is a cesspool. Lancashire Boulevard is gang territory. It is dominated by gangs and drug dealers. No wonder it is a freaking mess. You're not going to be able to clean it up until you deport these freaking gangbangers and wetbacks. Again, get rid of the human trash, the toxic human trash, wetbacks and gangbangers. Then, Buscaino, we can celebrate. Look at it for what it is. Use common sense. Look at that area. Walk at that area night or day, and you will see exactly what I mean. They hammer the streets to mark their turfs, and that's what gangbangers do. They hammer, they mark their turf by drilling holes on the cement or just trashing the trees and graffiti and vandalism. God dang, get rid of these wetbacks and gangbangers, support the asses, and then we can do work on the infrastructure. Use common sense and stop wasting taxpayers' monies. For those of us who are homeless, we don't even have a bathroom or shower to go to daily. We have to go all the way to Santa Monica Beach.
She's strayed from the topic.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. That concludes. Members of the public, please ask for your patience. There is no more cards on item 29. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 31.
Item 31 calls pleasure for cards.
Wayne Spindler, item 31.
Yes, playing around again with Griffith Park. Well, that's because of the recent death of Tom LaBonge. So, in his memory of his death, let us approve the Memorial Tom LaBonge Griffith Park Ferndale Bridge and railing repair. Because Tom, I didn't know Tom. I didn't like Tom. But Tom tried. He tried to to do what he could for Griffith Park, but despite all the efforts on Saturday nights, the gays still go in there and drop all the condoms on the park area. But in the memory of this tragic death, let us vote yes on this item in memory of the late Tom LaBonge.
Next speaker, John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or at J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting. See the LaBonge effort on my Twitter account. Let's start with Griffith Park. We got that for nothing from Mr. Griffith. Now, they're going to repaint the railings, change some signs, but the most important thing, and I'm quoting, is to expand the scope of services for this allocation to include preparation, acquisition, and installation of a monument and plaque associated with this effort. And this will be a giant, I believe, 150-foot high plaque with Tom LaBonge in bronze. In fact, he's bold as brass. But I say maybe 200 feet, maybe 300 feet. Let's change the name of the park to the Griffith LaBonge Park, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Next speaker, Mr. Herman.
Madam Speaker, Mr. LaBonge Joseph of Marshall High School always wanted to take his name at Griffith Park, but it was in the interest of the public, all of you, that Griffith Park was formed. And I want the world to know that Griffith Park is a place of welcoming not Mr. LaBonge's name, but in order to keep Griffith Park's allocations of funding pumped into the park for public interest, so we can celebrate our day of reckoning. Goodbye, goodbye, Tom LaBonge of District 4. But the subject here today, as John Walsh pointed out, is so true. Buffer zone, picnic zones. Let the children eat at Griffith Park to enjoy the day that Tom LaBonge has left his office. 1 minute. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, there are no more items, speaking cards on item 31. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 32.
Item 32, call special for cards.
John Walsh, item 32.
John Walsh, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. This is very important because what they're doing here is changing the zoning. And you might think you live in a residential area, but you better check every day, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday to see whether they're rezoning you for development. And where you will find this here, LaBonge and Puscaino. This is 32 final maps for Quimby Fees, Bonds, North Burnett. There's a whole bunch of them. Ashton Avenue. You don't want your neighborhood rezoned because it was zoned by Tom Bradley to prevent your neighborhood from being torn down, your home being torn down, and developers being brought up here and but this here is what is happening in L.A., HollywoodHighlands.org.
There are no more cards on item 32. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes. Next item, item 3.
Item 3, call special for cards.
Elizabeth Peterson.
Good afternoon, council members. Elizabeth Peterson. I'm here to let you know that the applicant for this business is a husband and wife, They have worked for the city as librarians their entire careers. This is a lifetime dream of theirs to open this market and beer shop. The beer shop will provide 10 jobs, will generate $45,000 in tax revenue. They'll provide educational classes, food pairings, and tastings. The business will stimulate the area. The building has been blighted for a very, very long time. We know that with Better Eyes on the Street and a Light Bright business, it will bring more business to the area. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, John Walsh.
We have more alcohol dispensaries per square mile than any other city in the world, but there's always room for one more. Sometimes you have to walk 10, 15, even 20 feet to buy alcohol. Alcohol is poison. It is poison. And is there any discrepancy here? We are also the hit-and-run capital of the world, because 98% of the people who hit you and run are drunks. This whole neighborhood, and you, every time there's a hit and run from one of these alcohol licenses, let the blood be on your hands. You haven't denied an alcohol license in almost 15 years. Come here, sell poison, but not on the west side where people like me, whose mother's Jewish. No, not the Jewish west side, only where the minorities live.
Next speaker, Mr. Herman, item 3.
Wow. 740 Southwestern Avenue, 9005, CD 10, Herman, Councilman. You have no regard for the consumption of beer and alcohol permits. The city's out of control. When do we fight the war on alcoholism? When? At whose life and discretion do you hold it upon? You forget that we killed people due to the fact and the matter, Mr. Krikorian, because of the hit-and-run capital of the world you've created. And Batman comes out to say to all of you, when does the end of permit of alcohol stop for convenience? Look at the crowd. Look at the crowd. You think they want to be a part of it? They're only 1% of the element. Alcoholism is you, Joseph. You, Joseph LaBonge. You forget your alcoholism. Go to AAA and think about it. Go to AA with Weezer. Think about his DUI in Boyle Heights. It's all related to alcoholism.
He is not talking about this item.
Shelters at 740 Southwestern regarding a beer, bar, and market for the sale of alcohol beverages on and off-site consumption. Mr. Attorney, stop getting involved with the speaker. How dare you intrude on Batman's public comment?
Mr. Herman, get back to the subject. No, I will not. You need to get back to the item 3.
Vote no, but it'll be tabulate oh yes. What a bunch of luscious alcoholics.
That concludes our speakers for item 3. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. And tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item passes.
Okay, now let's move to items 5 and 6. that were, they were called special for, I think, for you, Mr. Cedillo.
What item are we on?
5 and 6.
5611. Ready, Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. President, I don't want to belabor this point, but I stand, as I did last week, to speak against this measure. I think it's unnecessary, and I think that we should not proceed forward. Number one, I think it's overbroad, and I have a deep concern, as I've articulated, and I know we'll have that matter heard in committee on the question of the misdemeanor and its impact to immigrants who are new arrivals to the city of Los Angeles. I've spoken to other attorneys, but most significantly, I have a memo from Peter Shea, the president of the Center for Human Rights. He's one of the most significant attorneys on behalf of immigrants, and raised several very important and critical points with respect to the impact of a misdemeanor on immigrants who may be here. The prospects that they could likely be considered a public charge, the prospects of that this could be considered acts of moral turpitude, and the prospects that this could exceed time limits that are placed in there. Serious concerns that impact immigrants who are new arrivals, who come here only to realize their hopes and dreams, to integrate into our society. That this could have an adverse impact on them. I've raised that concern and will continue to raise that. I also noted that I think that this law is unnecessary because we have a whole plethora of laws that exist to address many of the very specific concerns that all of us have: public drunkenness, public urination and defecation, ADA compliance, a whole range of laws that are in our toolbox that should be utilized. There's nothing that gives me confidence that adding a new law will allow us to move forward to address this. I've raised a concern that we don't have adequate infrastructure, that we're moving this bill ahead of our ability to implement it. And so we know that 100% of the voluntary storage is filled up. We know that 80% of the involuntary storage is filled up. And so, frankly, we're implementing a new law. We're going to put a new law in the books for which we only have a 10% capacity to execute. I don't see why we would proceed in that manner. It seems that we're going forward backward. Finally, let me add, I have a concern that we leap forward with these proposals, and then we go to court, and then we lose, and then we pay fees. And I think this is one of those moments for us to step back and implement the laws that we have, and that would be sufficient for us at this very critical moment as we address homelessness. And finally, let me say that at some point, and this is the point that I suggest, that we just have to change the direction of our policies towards poor people and the homeless in the city. We cannot and we can no longer continue to criminalize them, that we should have a war on poverty, not a war on the poor, and that we must begin that. We had an incredible meeting the other day led by Councilmember Huizar. That's where our energy and our resources should be. We are the policy body of this great city. We are the policymakers of this city, and we should not proceed with laws that seem to be put forward in an urgent manner, driven by other laws that were put forward. Remember, we stand here today prepared to continue down a strategy that has failed us simply because there is an injunction in a small part of downtown Los Angeles. That simply is not the resolution that we need at this moment. It takes us in the wrong direction. For that, I raise my objection. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you, Mr. President. And let me begin by thanking you for establishing the Committee on Homelessness. I think I agree largely with my colleague, Mr. Cedillo's comments about what it is that we should and should not be doing. And so I just wanted to clarify, in particular, since you mentioned Peter Shea, he's the first person that I worked for after I finished at UCLA with the Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law. And I also share the same concern that any matter of record will be used by future immigration agencies. And so that's a real big concern for me, which is to say that I think that we have to realize that this is not the end of the conversation. I absolutely agree that we need to strive to figure out how to add additional service delivery to every part of the enforcement capacity that the city of Los Angeles has and needs. But I think there's something that really needs to be reminded to all of us, is that we currently live under the constraints of a couple of lawsuits in the city of Los Angeles. We have been unable to intersect and speak to folks largely because we're confined by our inability to clean up encampments. And for me, this is a beginning. It gives us the tools to be able to approach an encampment in a lawful way that tempers the needs of those homeless folks with their rights and their needs with those of the community at large. So I absolutely agree. We're going to have to make sure that we make this a more functioning set of laws that will help us not just deal with the encampments, but deal with the underlying issues that are surrounding the situation that we find in these encampments. So I have to vote yes today for this because I have to make sure that we are moving the ball forward. But I'd like to have the city attorney's office come up and help us understand a couple of things. There were some guidelines that were presented in a report that are very helpful. And I think it underscores, Mr. Cedillo and colleagues, the need that we have to make sure that we are using the misdemeanor flexibility and discretion enforcement tool as minimally as possible. And if you could just walk us through what it is that the report does and also help us understand why this is not going to go through the ACE program.
Yes, Councilmember Leela Kapoor, Chief Assistant City Attorney. I will speak generally as to your questions. The report itself is attorney-client, but I'll try to address your questions for the public. As I have said to each of you, and I know that Mr. Fuhrer has made very clear, it would always be his priority to not impose a criminal sanction unless absolutely necessary as far as a violation of 5611. So it would be our preference in those situations to work with LAPD and our staff to either bring them in as an infraction, or we have several programs that we can utilize in an effort to get them services, whether they be social or mental health services, if we can get them to some type of supportive housing, if we can deal with some way to deal with their property as far as storage. All of those are avenues that we believe that we can take if a case is filed with our office. If a case is filed with our office from LAPD, it is our absolute discretion whether to file anything at all, whether to file it as an infraction or a misdemeanor. Again, our last resort would be to file it as a misdemeanor, and that would be in only the most egregious situation. Our preference would be to put the individual through what we call loosely a diversion program. We have a homeless citation clinic by which we could do that. We have a neighborhood justice program that we think we could utilize for that purpose. So there are several avenues that we think that we can utilize to try to assist the individual and get them services before we would have to file a misdemeanor. To answer your question about the ACE program, the ACE program is an administrative program, so there is no criminal component to it. But the result of an ACE violation or a citation is a fine from anywhere from $250 to $1,000. And given the individuals that we're speaking of who don't have the financial means to pay a fine, to put them through that process really is not appropriate, unless there's a way that we could also use that as a pathway to diversion, which I don't think that we need to do at this time given our other programs, which are more appropriate for that. The ACE program may be inappropriate when we're dealing with either, again, very egregious situations with personal property or when we're dealing with commercial property, because we need to remember 5611 addresses also the placement of commercial property on the sidewalks. So, for instance, if we had a store owner who did not remove commercial property off of the sidewalks after being noticed to do so, the ACE program may be an appropriate pathway for them because it's a commercial enterprise.
Thank you. Again, I want to appreciate my colleagues' comments about but precisely the problems with looking at this only from an enforcement lens. And I want to stress, colleagues, that this is but the beginning of this conversation in terms of what our overall strategy is going to be. It seems to me that more than likely we're going to really have to put our money where our mouth is when it comes to diversion and trying to understand at every possible intersection with this very delicate constituency how it is that we're going to serve them better. But we have to temper that with the challenges that we have with vagrancy issues, not homelessness issues, but the criminal vagrancy aspects of all of this. And so this is just a beginning step. And I want to thank you, Mr. Cedillo, for being the constant reminder on what it is that we cannot lose sight of. It seems to me that we've gone one way in this city, and we have not fared very well. And as a result, we end up in court. But we must challenge ourselves. Mr. President, the establishment of this committee headed by Mr. Huizar has been a tremendous asset, I think, to the conversation, and it will be just the beginning of the conversation. So, colleagues, I urge an aye vote on this very important motion, and may the conversation continue. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no more speakers on the queue, and I just want to say that Mr. Huizar recognizes that he has a very important job to quickly put these amendments before the ad hoc committee so that we can review them and then move on those once we get them properly shaped by the committee. So with that said, on this issue, members, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Oh, listen, I had to do it, Gilbert. I'm so sorry. Let's do, well, he can change his vote to no. Yeah, no, don't worry about it. We will do that. And General and others, public comment was satisfied in the committee hearings. So the public comment has already been had. So with that said, what else is before this body?
Mr. President, just for the record, for items 5 and 6, the vote was 12 ayes and 1 no, and those ordinances will pass. Next, Mr. President, council has this brings council to general public comment.
Okay, and 5 and 6 forthwith. Okay, let's move to general public comment. I think it's a Don Lanza. Maybe it's a Larry G.
No.
Oh, that's you. Okay, it's a G. I'm sorry, not an L.
All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you for putting up with me last Wednesday. I'm not doing well physically, and that was actually a bucket list of mine. I wanted to know what it was like to come after coming here at public comment since '99, very cordially and sometimes not, but to that effect of like what they do back there, you know, I just want to know what that was like. And it wasn't fun. But I'm grateful. I am extremely grateful for this city council for putting up with me. I'm extremely grateful that you put up with that bucket list item of mine that I'm grateful for. I'm getting, my Marine Corps buddies are coming together for me. They're friending me on Facebook, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to you, Jose Huizar, for putting up with me. And thank you, all of you. You've been there for me. So this might be a goodbye, but I'm still going to be around. But when you get sick, you never know, it might go fast, it might go slow. But thank you.
We wish you the best, Don. We wish you the best. Okay, so if I could get, was there a Larry G? Is that you, Melrose Larry Green? And I can't even, you using abbreviations here. Melrose Larry Green, please come forward. Followed by Eric Previn.
I want to say, I was sitting in the back because I'm just a regular guy from the 4th District. I wanted to take in everything. I was sitting next to my good friend Carolyn Ramsey until they brought her up here. And I want to tell you something. This day, this ceremony honoring my friend Tom LaBonge was like 1,000 Howard Stern shows. You know I love Howard Stern. But I love you, Tom LaBonge. And I want you to know nobody in this country, from President Obama to President Bush to President Clinton, nobody in the history that I've known since December 4th, 1950, ever worked harder than you. And I'm proud that you let me be part of your life. And you once told me something in Hollywood, when one door closes, another door opens. I'm older than you, probably by a few months. I love you. And I love your family. And I'm honored to know you, and the best is yet to come for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, always a pleasure. Eric?
What a great ceremony today.
Thank you. Eric Previn. Eric, followed by, okay, I think it's Omar Baldwin. I believe Wesley Walker, Jr. Wesley Walker, Jr. Ankar Patel or Arthur Patel, just come forward and identify yourself.
2 minutes. Ankur Patel, I only get a minute.
Yes, sir.
My name is Ankur Patel. I got here earlier today and there was an incident going on. Right? Los Angeles Community Action Network was here disrupting a little bit because items 5 and 6, important, which you just voted on as usual without much discussion. Spent a lot of time honoring Tom LaBonge, and I've been coming to these meetings since 2007, right? And the Dog and Pony Show continues, but you guys are here doing some work. Obviously, you are in positions of power because people line up, spend hours to come here to get 2 minutes of public comment and don't even get that so that we could potentially get your ear for a quick second. That's a little disappointing that I only get a minute right here. You know, Bernard Parks, also another member. I can't believe that you're not going to give me 2 minutes, really. I'd like to see Tom LaBonge be a part of the redistricting commission next time because
Thank
CD4...
you. Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you. So, sir, please come forward and identify yourselves.
Wesley Walker.
Okay, sir. Welcome.
Yes. Okay.
Go right ahead.
Okay. My name is Wesley Walker, and I'm here with the Los Angeles Community Action Network. We're opposed to all ordinances that criminalize the homeless and offenses that our city continue to criminalize poverty. LA Can has worked for years to protect the civil rights of homeless residents until everyone in need of a home has one. We strongly oppose the proposed change to the Los Angeles Municipal Code 5611 because they violate people's basic rights to own property. The proposed ordinance is so broad in scope that people without homes literally will not be able to own property, but also others will be impacted by the unjust laws and lack of due process. I advise the City Council to really think about what Mr. Cedillo is saying.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Huizar?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to publicly announce that the Planning and Land Use Management Committee will begin at 3 o'clock today as opposed to its regular schedule at 2:30. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Price?
The Economic Development Committee will be meeting at 2 o'clock as opposed to 1 o'clock.
Okay, so do we have Mr. Baldwin, Eric Aries, Eric, James Porter, Antonia Ramirez, Welcome and identify yourself, sir.
Hello, my name is Omar Baldwin. Welcome. I'm a college student. I'm a founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization titled Peace Please. First seek the kingdom of heaven. I think I read that in the Bible, in the chapter of Luke. Peace is not a dream, but a plan. It takes the 100% to work loyally and in solidarity at that plan. Peace is now. Peace is the democracy.
Thank you. Please come forward, sir, and identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Eric Ades. I'm with the Los Angeles Community Action Network, and I attended Little High School with your son, Justin Wesson. What's up, Justin? I'm here to implore you all, right, to shout you out and to say, let's keep it 100. We cannot continue the policies of criminalization of homelessness in our city. We just got a report, $87 million of the $100 million spent on homelessness in our city goes to LAPD. We got another report from LASA saying that homelessness is up 12%. The policies you are passing are not going to help. They're going to worsen the homeless situation, a situation that's already entrenched in failed policies. And I want to speak specifically to the policy that you're hearing about today that you all voted on. It's not going to make it easier to get services. It's going to make it harder. It's going to make people decide whether or not they want to go get services, and knowing that when they go get their services, LAPD is going to come and take their birth certificates, take their driver's license, right? Take their prescription medication, or don't get the services and stay with their stuff 24/7. We cannot continue these failed policies. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Mr. Porter, followed by Antonia Ramirez. Please come forward.
The city must stop all. First of all, my name is James Porter, member of Los Angeles Community Action Network. The city must stop all methods of criminalizing homelessness. It is expensive, cruel, and it's not effective. We know we won't get to speak on specific ordinance today, but we urge you to follow Councilmember Sedale's view, lead, and say no to more enforcement, and yes to housing as a real issue here. We as black people are the most impacted by homelessness and police violence. Black life matters. I want you to understand that. Black life matters. And we want house keys, not handcuffs. Thank you. And I support Sedale's.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh, followed by Mr. Herman, I believe.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Go right ahead.
Good evening. Good morning. Gil Cedillo, Felipe Fuentes, and Huizar. Don't play stupid. Your homies, the newly arrived immigrants, are nothing more than toxic human trash, racist hate-mongering wetbacks, and Latino Chango gangbangers who commit all the unspeakable crimes against military veterans, pilots, legal law-abiding citizens, and homeless people. Case in point, you saw my shopping cart. It gets vandalized this is the fourth shopping cart within a month. LAPD does not enforce the rule of law. What happens? Between 12 midnight and 4 o'clock, those gangbangers and wetbacks, including Africans and African Americans who sleep at the Hall of Records building and also at the criminal courts, go around sneakingly and wake up or take the possessions of IDs of all the homeless people who are sleeping, including me. So when we are sleeping, they come in and take your personal property and IDs. Then these wetbacks go to Tijuana and El Salvador and sell your ID information. Again, keep in mind, God bless America.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh, followed by Mr. Herman, followed by Wayne Spindler. Mr.
Jay Walsh Confidential, you had enough time for 2 hours of nauseating self-congratulation about goodbye, good riddance to Tom LaBonge. But you didn't have 1 minute minute under public comment on an agenda item for the black and brown people up here. I just want you to know, as a white person, we mean more to you. In fact, Herb wishes he was white. And I'm telling you right
You know
now,
what?
they don't
Now, hold this time. I'm sorry.
First Amendment.
I understand, and I'm going to let you say that, but I want you to look at my eyes when I tell you you don't know what the heck you're talking about.
What? Hey,
Go ahead.
anytime, white man, you don't know what you're talking about. Take your nose out of Garcetti's crack, that's where you get everything you got from sucking off the white mayor. You want to play games? That's all you are. You're a black punk. You are Uncle Tom. You are garbage. And that's called the First Amendment, and my relatives fought for it in the 18th century. HollywoodHighlands.org. Punk-ass white man.
You know, Mr. President, the Speaker made clear that this is his First Amendment right, but the First Amendment right doesn't give you a right to be an idiot, for the record. Thank you.
Mr. Herman.
General public comment, shut the fuck up, Joe Buscaino. We're going to express our First Amendment rights here today because 5011, the bullshit, racist, prejudice, discriminatory action of all of you taking the rights away from homeless people and people with no means to get the fuck off the sidewalk and streets is not your business. It always will be. $5.5 million going to LAPD to kill. And you're going to stand here and tell the public you're doing them justice. Now you got on Batman's bad side, brother. And Batman's movie to be is today. And I'm going to make all of it good for all of you. Unusual punishment to the homeless people. You retard. You retard.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Spindler, followed by Mr. Previn.
Yes, well spoken. Joe Buscaino, take a big fucking suck. Just sit there and shut up when people are up here.
He should speak to the council as a whole.
I'm in public comment. Quiet the fucking down, okay? That's why I'm up here, because I wait while you praise this big fat slob, Tom LaBonge, this worthless fucking slob. So I have to sit here and have to watch the lies. This guy is nothing but a mafia boss. And what he did to the Korean American community through Carolyn Ramsey, that fucking whore, to try to get her elected over the will of the people of the city. And when you redistrict this city to deny Asian Americans an Asian majority district, they fucked you in CD4 and put the first Korean American on this council July 1st. Thank God. You cannot stop the people. We are going to take this city back. Fuck you, council.
I'm sure the children that watch our council meetings will appreciate the language. Public comment is closed. What is before this body, Madam Clerk?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
They are posted and referred.
That clears the
announcements. Everybody rise for adjourning motions. I'll look to my right. Any adjournments to my right? I do not see any. I will look to the left side. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I ask that we rise and adjourn in memory of Takuo Kuwahara. Passed away last week at 85 years old. He was one of three brothers who owned and ran Yamada Company, Inc., which is a gardening and hardware store established in 1934 in Harbor Gateway in my district, where the entire family grew up. The store is still in the family. He was surrounded by his loving family, and may he rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. I'm still looking to my left. I don't see any other adjourning motions. Members, this council meeting is adjourned.